Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Greetings, gatekeepers. You wonderful people, you. I'll tell you what, this has been the longest week. I don't know how long it was for you guys, and I hope you guys can hear me. Everybody 5-5 out there, I'll wait for the delay. I think we've got it just about right here. All right. So you guys should be able to hear me. Hi, Glenn. Welcome. Thank you for the bacon. Lindsay, good to see you, sweetie. Great big hugs all the way into Canada and back. 5-5, thank you. Jose, love you. Hello, Monica. Welcome in. Blue, how you doing, Blue? Are you kidding me? Welcome. You know, it's so funny when I see you guys, I just start to smile. Hey, Ted. So spread that bacon. We're going to need the snacks tonight. Maybe some extra popcorn. I don't know how you guys feel about this case, but we're kind of in it for the long haul on this one, and I'll explain here in a minute. I just want to say hi to some more of you wonderful people. Linda, hello, darling. Thank you for the black hearts. I love it. Salvador, welcome in. Edna, how you doing, sweetie? How are you doing? Mermaid, my wonderful mermaid. Listen, all my mods, thank you again. If I don't say thank you enough to you guys for throwing up links and, answering questions for people in the chat, being great mega gatekeepers and mods that you are. You're always welcome, everybody in here. And, I see new people and see everybody going, welcome. It just makes me feel wonderful. So thank you again for that. I don't say thank you enough. And thanks for sharing the links. Thanks for sharing this out if you can. I realize because we are paranormal supernatural that a lot of people don't. Hey, Sue, welcome. A lot of people don't, share that stuff in some cases, maybe with family. I mean, I gave up that a long time ago. You should have seen when I handed them all a book. Wow. That's a story for another night. But, I wanted to tell you guys that I've been sending out lots of prayers and healing to everybody that, I can. And I know you guys were sending them back to me. Had a rough week. I slept for like 3 days. I still don't know what hit me. I wish I could tell you. No clue. It wasn't anything like the flu or anything. It was just, I don't know. I never had anything like that before. I mean, it was just like dizzy, boom, almost like your blood sugar went like skyrocketing or whatever. My blood pressure was fine. Mario was taking my blood pressure constantly. So God bless him for taking care of me in common belief. Thank you for the prayers and well wishes. Hey, Laura, welcome in, honey. I told Donnie said, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a napper. I'm not a sleeper. I mean, I almost slept away 3 days. I didn't even get up and drink coffee in the morning. I mean, don't know. Yeah, Linda, that's more what I think it was. A real good whammy, because when I started doing things to combat that, I started getting better. So, not sure. Either way, I'm fine. Thank you for the healing prayers. I'm good. I mean, it wasn't anything. I'm a little hoarse now, but that has really nothing to do with it. This was all something completely different, man. I had to leave my car at work. I couldn't drive. I was dizzy. I was just like, I've never had anything like that before. It's very strange. But anyway, on this side of it, so fantastic. And thank you for everybody in there, Laura and Edna and everybody else in here that was needing healing vibes. We send them back to you, and all our love. And we're going to gather together for 4 nights of, basically 4 shows tonight, tomorrow with Steve and Sandy and Donnie. And thank you, Para Solo. And welcome in, by the way. Welcome in. Because this story is too big for one show. It really is. And if you're trying to do Amityville in an hour, I can't imagine how you can pack 50 years into an hour. I mean, it's just, you're just skimming the surface. And I'm sure documentaries and things like that have been done that were, well done and with the best intentions. However, I got with my co-host tonight and we started discussing this a while ago. So why don't I go ahead and bring him in and we'll tell you a little bit more about it. Let me see here. I'm trying to be so careful with buttons because I get so much loaded on this thing. So welcome in, Donny Cho. Hello,
Hi.
sweetie.
Hello.
Donnie has been burning the midnight oil, hadn't you, hon?
Yep, I've been reading like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, we're just saying hi to everybody in here. Did you get a chance? Anybody you see in here that we didn't get a chance to say hi to? I always
Uh,
feel like sometimes when we have guests, like last Sunday, it was absolutely fabulous. We did the Shanley Hotel.
mhm.
We had Tony, which was great. Thank you for getting him. And
Yeah, Chisholm.
Chisholm, which was wonderful, and Laura. And we had a great talk, and we talked about the difference between dark and light houses, dark house. You know what I mean? It's just you wouldn't think that there was that big of a noticeable difference right up front. You know, I mean, when you're in it, Donnie, it looks different. And is that Toby's shadow on the wall
Yeah,
behind
he's
you?
running
Because
around,
you
freaking
have a
out.
big old shadow person behind you on the
Yeah.
ceiling. It's great. Hi, Toby. So, yeah, I don't know how much you knew about this case. I was just telling the gatekeepers we're doing 4 nights. So you and I got together and we kind of broke it down into an outline of let's do little the history on the DeFeos. Let's talk a little bit about evil seeds being planted, and you know where does evil start? Like, if that you could drop evil seeds, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to grow, but if they have fertile ground, things can really take over. And I'm not even really sure where we're standing on this case. Donnie and I have tried to approach it open-mindedly, but I have to come, full disclosure from my end of it. And then I'd like to hear where Donnie was when he first heard about it. But I've told this story before, and it means a lot. When Zariah said, on the episode we were talking about Amityville, he said that he didn't trust anything the Warrens were involved in because there's been so much controversy. Fair enough. And he also said that there's so many other cases. Why dig around in this one? Well, for me, again, you guys know the story. I was 14 in 76. So that's when I got the book that Christmas, I believe it was. The hardback, so when it first came out. And I was very nervous even about asking because I was living with my aunt and uncle. My mom had just died in February of 76. And I happened to turn 14 the night that the Lutzes left was January 14th, 1976. That was my birthday. I can remember hitting that in the book and go, what? It's just all these little things. But again, something Donnie wouldn't understand. When you're a teenage girl, and like, your favorite guitar player, your favorite singer is like their favorite color is purple and your favorite color is purple, you have a connection. We pick out all those little things, those little, we have something in common. We have, whatever. This story kept hitting me like that. Another big one, I was the same age as Mark, and he spelled his name Marc. So when he passed, I can remember hearing about the people being shot in Long Island. I was in New Jersey. And I can remember hearing the ages. And I remember looking into it, seeing the birthdays, and noticing that his birthday was the same as mine, his birth year anyway. And so Mark, had he not been shot,
Mark
would
was
be my
the
age.
second youngest
Yeah,
sibling, by the way.
he would be my age exactly right now. This is how long ago, you know. And he was a 14-year-old kid laying in his bed with a broken ankle that he got from football, laying next to a wheelchair, And I wonder how they got that chair up and down. I guess they carried him down, had one downstairs or something. I don't know, but I often think about that. There's a lot of stairs in that house. So anyway, that was my take on it. And then again, reading the book. Now, as I'm reading the book, I had to do this completely on my own. There was nobody at school I was talking to about this because I had just got here, really. And you don't lift your head. You want to be invisible if you're in school under the conditions I was there, you know. So I couldn't talk to the family about it because I didn't want them to take it away and say, okay, we thought it was too much. So, you know, we don't. So it was just all very internalized. And I'm reading this book. And I told you how funny it was. I used to put it outside the bedroom door, out in the hallway before I went to sleep, except for the one night when I got to the priest part and I threw the book down the stairs, slammed my bedroom door, you know, quietly because I don't want to wake anybody up. I went inside and then I started thinking, well, they're going to see it and they're going to take it. I won't be able to finish it. So I ran, scrambled down and got it and put it back in. But this book and well, then I went into the Hans Holzer part because he also wrote books, 3 of them on Amityville, by the way. And I was a big Hans Holzer fan and I'm reading his and he had a completely different take. So I'm like, how does this mesh up? What's going on? Still a kid trying to understand. Here I am 50 years later. We're still trying to understand this mess, Donnie. So I think it's very cruel. I'm going to be right up front to make money off of a tragedy. Plain and simple. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. You know, the exploitation. I can understand digging around trying to figure out what happened, but it really makes me nauseous that people would show up at this house and do some of the things they're doing and exploiting these kids. These were young American kids already in what I feel, and we will touch on that, a horrible abusive situation in a lot of ways. The one little girl, Allison, she just did puzzles and tried to stay in her room and kept her head down and be, you know, and didn't want to be noticed. And I could kind of relate to that. This was real. So whatever else we dig into, whatever else we pull up, we're going to be trying to be fair and open-minded, right, Donnie? We're going to try to go to all different angles. We are digging so far back. We're going back, so that when we come back up through it by the end of the 4th show, we should have it all out there for you guys to look at and say what you think happened. But if there's one thing I get across tonight, it's the fact that a family lost their lives that night. Another man, I don't have a clue what his life was really like from what I understand. You know, not something we would all choose. But he spent the rest of his life in prison. And this reverberated out. Now, if people voluntarily jumped in here and started lying about things to make money, we need to expose that if we can. I don't want to call anybody a liar. I wasn't there. We're going to go with common sense, information, proof, documentation, and then we're going to run it back through common sense again as best as we can. And we're going to do it together, right, Donnie?
To the best of our ability.
Right. Because, like I said, this is like the paranormal soundtrack of my life. And if it's the last thing I do, I'd really like to get a little bit more of an understanding, and maybe we can just knock away some of the nonsense and see what we wind up with at the end. Right, Donnie? Where were you when you first heard about this, hon?
Well, I was a little kid hearing about the movie and then seeing that it was based on a true story. And as a little kid who was already going through way too many nightmares, I was like, yo, that's too scary for me.
Yeah.
And then just the fact that, like, I come to find out that there's like a pig demon and all this goo dripping out of the wall. And I'm like, yo, and then they're saying it's a true story. So I was like, yo, that's too terrifying.
Too terrifying.
I already went through it with
Right,
The Exorcist.
Lindsay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they said it was based on a true story and it messed me up. So, you know, later on through the years, you kind of find out the cursory details. You know, some guy flips out, kills his family.
Right.
Says that he was possessed by demons, and then another family moves in, they move out, and that's the basis of the story. That was like, as far as my knowledge of it was concerned, that's as far as it went. So,
right.
So when
Well,
you
I
brought
can
up,
tell. Go ahead, honey. I'm
Oh
sorry.
well, so when you brought up that you wanted to do Amityville, I was like, well, I need to download some information into my brain. So went ahead and ordered this book.
Yep.
Read it. It came on Monday. Read it. Finished it today. I'm ready to talk about it.
Here we go. Here we go. Now hold the book up again. This book here, and we will bring this up again. But
It's
this
called
book, there's so many. This is The Night the DeFeos Died by Rick
Rick Osuna.
Osuna. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, this
and
one, we are going to bring up more and talk about this, and Donnie's going to do it in detail. The reason we chose this is because it delves into different areas that you may have not heard of before. And we think it's very important. So again, I'm going to go back to what I was saying in the beginning. It's going to be a structured 4 parts. We already have Steve and Sandy joining us tomorrow night with Donnie. They're extremely busy and they're researching, their channel, and it's so much work. So I offered them that Donnie and I were going to do the heavy lifting. We're going to throw out the information and then see what they think about what comes up tomorrow night. Now, tomorrow night, we're doing a little bit of the trial, a little bit of Hans Holzer, a little bit of the legends and lore that they keep blaming on this area of the island. Tonight, it's pretty much the histories of the Defeo, Brigante family, and throughout there to see what led up to the night that the DeFeos died. And that might give you guys a little bit more insight. I don't know if you ever heard any of this side of it. Now, I can remember it had to be. What year did the trial take place, Donnie? Was it 70? I want to say it was somewhere around in the 77, 78 ish. You don't have to answer now, but it was
I
something. It
think
was about 2 years after, wasn't it? Or somewhere in
it was
there.
1 year after.
Was it? Okay. Because
So,
then there was a couple little things dragging back and forth. But I remember when I think it was the New York Times, and it may have been also in the Star Ledger, when he was his attorney Weber, who we will bring up. Basically, look, we're losing. You got to go with the insanity plea. The thing that got up there that Lorraine Warren liked to talk about a lot of the time was that introduced in this trial was the devil made me do it defense. And she's right about that because I remember seeing it in the paper. It was big letters. The devil made him do it. Okay. So again, that's another where they're kind of playing on the words and really emphasizing on everything. And that's what happens with this case. Everything gets blown out of proportion.
yeah.
The window opening and closing isn't enough. They have to have it exploding in smithereens. And this is what they put in the movie. And so people would look at the movie and then look at the house and go, well, the windows look fine, or the windows weren't blown out. I saw it the second day, or whatever. And then everybody says, well, it's a hoax because they lied about the window. It's more than a window. It's more than a lie. It's more than a horror case. It's more. It's so much more. All of this is so much more. And I think it goes even deeper than they were willing to dig. There's a couple of people in here that I've watched over time, and I've introduced Donnie to them, that were there day one and still to this day are involved and haven't changed their story. Where you have other people like Ronnie Jr., or as his friend called him, Butch DeFeo, the son who shot the family. He changed his story so many times, I honestly can't pinpoint a piece of truth. You see what I'm saying? The only way I can do it is to hear what he's saying and go, did anybody else say that? Did anybody say that doesn't know that person? So this is basically, like I've said before, this is like the paranormal version of the JFK assassination. It really is. Which the whole, words conspiracy theory was made up for. And if you ever want to get into that, I can tell you who it was made up for and when, but the CIA came up with it to debunk, to throw people off. And I think this case is a lot like that. So if we go in knowing that, I think that's going to help us a little, Donnie, because you can get disappointed in people, can't you? You start digging and then you look up documents and you go, whoa, wait a minute. But again, if somebody lied once, it doesn't mean they're lying every single time. But the amount of time that they lie really does start to weigh on their character and whether or not you can trust what they're saying. And it's irritating to me, and I've said this to Donnie, a case this big, where so many people are looking at it. If you're going to hate the case, if you're going to say that things aren't real, let's be sure. But that doesn't mean it, because if it didn't happen at a house, that it can't happen and didn't happen to somebody else. It's almost like, like a crime is committed and nobody believes that victim. And so we've got to be careful, and we don't want to call anybody a liar. I wasn't there that night. There's some real suspicious behavior, as far as, right now I'm talking about the Lutzes, where they'll get to, well, tell us what happened that night, and they'll like almost get to it and then change the subject. Like it's so bad they can't express it, yet they expressed all the other stuff. Or it's better to just leave everybody hanging because they found that it has that effect. I don't know. Either could be true. It's not up to me to decide. What Donnie and I are doing is we're digging around, looking for information. We're going to try to share as much of that with you as we can in the most honest, open way we can. And then toward the end, you're still going to be the one that's deciding. Hi, Dawn Marie. Welcome in. Welcome in. AJK, welcome in. You're just on time. Dawn Marie, it's been a long time, Dawn. You're just beautiful as ever. And I'm so glad you're here. And let's see who else we got. A couple people popping in here. Donnie, did you see anybody? I just love these guys so much.
Sachi Bell.
Barbie. Sacha Bell. Hi, darling. Hi, welcome.
Saying hello. Yeah, I think we said hi to everybody so far.
Cool beans. Now, guys, let me ask you this before we get started. Since you guys are a huge part of this, and this whole thing is for you guys anyway, where are you sitting now? If you have heard about the Amityville horror case, did you just look at it like a good story? And I don't know why people keep saying it's a good ghost story. There's no ghosts in it. For real. There's a couple that, were said, and we'll talk about that was in the kitchen, and then, a couple of other little things there, but it's really not your typical ghost story. It's more of a horror, or a happening of some paranormal, supernatural flavor, but I wouldn't call it a ghost story. But what do you think, Donnie? I don't think ghost story really fits. Do you? I don't know what does.
It's a potential ghost story that was kind of mired down by a lot
on
of
the fence,
like a lot of stuff that happened on the outside that surprisingly not more people know about. That's surprising.
Yeah, and Dawn says she thinks it's a real horror. Are you kidding me? Says she's kind of on the fence. I don't blame you. Yeah, Ted. Yeah, to cover up a heinous murder. That's for sure. The heinous murder. Whew. But here's the deal. There's so many moving parts to this sucker. To just say, this big gear here is the important part. It's all these little gears too, and it's really Cubs won apparently. AJK says. Yep. Is he talking about some bears? Were bears having a fight? Were some baby bears having a fight in your backyard or something against a kangaroo or something, AJK? Or are we talking sports ball? We're talking sports ball? Okay. So skeptical, but it's a good horror story. There you go, Glenn. Yeah, us too. And like I said, when I did start talking about it, or that's when, then you go see, you got the book, and now the paperbacks are coming out. Now people, because I'm on the beach, so you start seeing the paperback coming out a lot, just like when Jaws came out, I think very close to around the same time. Everybody on the beach had that paperback, and you got to talk about it a little bit more. And I know when the movie came out, I was a little disappointed because I'm like, oh gosh, it didn't really match the book. I was real big on that. If it didn't match the book, I was disappointed.
You're talking about the original movie, right?
Right. Yeah. Now, I will tell you this, and I will not change my opinion about this statement. So we can go ahead and make this and put Cisco down for this. The first movie, and the only reason I'm not including this You know, it's just because I want to wait to the end of the fourth episode. But every movie from that movie backwards, and there's like been, and I think we're up to 26, 27 of them, complete total trash. Okay, the second one, I don't even know where they come up with this stuff. The third one, and there's supposedly one that's not too long, not very old, you know, came out a couple of years ago, maybe even sooner, where they have a little girl ghost who's named Jody Defeo. So it's the pig's name, and then they're using the Defeo, and she's got a bullet hole in her head. This is like a 4 or 5 year old kid ghost. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, this is, I mean, at the very least, tacky,
Hi, Shell
trashy.
Ashley.
You know, hello, Chell. How you doing? It's just it's such poor taste. But you know, we're going to bring up that a couple of people were involved in that. There's a couple of people
Mm-hmm.
involved in this that are really pissed off about the movies, and again think that they're trash and they're garbage. I mean, keep in mind, the three Lutz kids are still alive. They're still out there, you know, and they're not much younger than me, and their names have been drugged through this too. So there's a lot of people, a lot of skin in this game. So, like I said, we thought we would peel it back a little bit and start at the beginning
Hey,
and
Sean.
let you guys help understand. Hey, Sean, how you doing? And see what you guys think. But again, yeah, Cash Cow franchise, maybe Cash Pig. It's funny. But which one had Jason in it? Is that Friday the 13th? It was like
Yep.
15, 16 of those. I don't
Yeah.
know. But again, just like we said with the show, if there wasn't a market, right? But
Mm-hmm.
again, you've got people from 30, that are a next couple generations coming up that are just interested in this, and they're seeing this movie and thinking this is how it was. I think even one of them had incest in it with all kinds of different. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's
We'll
just
talk
gross.
about that. We will
It's
talk
just
about that.
gross. I
Yeah.
mean, these people went through, first of all, their lives weren't as rosy as people think. And second of all, they were shot to death in their beds. These were children. You know, say what you want about the adults, but these kids, and that's what gets me. So, Donnie, did you want to say anything else before we run our first little vid? I did a little video for you guys to give you a little idea of the night.
Well, I never saw the movie. I didn't read the original book. So when I came into this and got this book and started reading about the DeFeo family and
Yep.
what went on with Butch and everything, I was completely new to everything. I didn't really have an opinion either way going in. But after reading this book, oh, I got opinions. I got opinions.
And Donnie, you gotta give Donnie a hand, everybody. Throw him some bacon. Because again, hold up that book, Don. He ordered this like 2 weeks ago. It came late, and he's already finished it. What did it come Monday? You were
It came
talking to me. I
Monday.
think when I
Yeah.
was sick, I was kind of like out of it, but
Yeah. No, I ordered it on Saturday. No. I ordered it
okay.
last week, but it came late because of
Hello,
the
Eminem.
delivery.
Welcome in.
So I got it this past Monday,
Here comes some bacon for you, baby.
and I just finished it today.
All right. So
I'm good to
there
go.
you go. That's all that bacon's for you. So this is it. You know, I mean, we're trying to do the research now. If you guys have any input, as per usual, that you want to throw in here, and you've heard about this part, and you've got a little something over here, like there was a document that you saw that, you know, whatever, that might bring it up, because there's so much stuff out there. So much stuff. I mean, the books alone. And I'm being told that if you want to read a good book, High Hopes is a very good one. That really kind of tries to stick to, is written by the former prosecutor. The
This
first book.
This
Go
book
ahead.
talks about that book, and it doesn't have
And
nice
it
things to say
and it
about
did
the
and it
prosecutor.
yeah, it dishes it. Yeah. That's the thing here. You're going to get this one person comes out, and then 50 people attack that person, and then the next one comes up, and then 20 more, and this is just the way it's been going for 50 years, you know. And that's why we're here, to try to get it. Hey, Zozo dude, I love you, baby. You're patriotic, but I love you, man. So here we are. You want to watch a little bit of the
Yeah, let's go
the
for
night? Okay, guys, here we go. Like, this is a short one, 5 minutes or so. Okay, here we go.
He came, he opened the door, and he was screaming, "Come on, help me. Somebody shot my mother and father." And everyone ran out of the bar, and that was it. They all took off. No, I had to stay. I was tending off. They all jumped in his car and took off.
Today, police combed the DeFeo's handsome three-story house for clues while divers explored the backyard swimming pool for the still unfound murder weapon. Police have been questioning the son, Ronald, and now say he is being, quote, safeguarded. Investigators say without explanation that they now feel young DeFeo was in the house at the time of the murders, but they're not yet considering him a suspect.
And so forth.
No suspect at this time. We have no indication of the motive at this time.
What about Ronald DeFeo, the son, the surviving son?
Ronald is being safeguarded by the Suffolk County Police at this time.
Why safeguarded?
Why? Because the 6 members of the family dead, and we don't know why, and he's the sole remaining member.
Is he also a suspect?
He's not a suspect at this time.
Few people in the neighborhood knew the family well, but those who did described them as close-knit.
Well, I think they were just very sweet, very religious people, very family-minded people. And that's about all I could say. Very good, very generous, this type. Very close with their children.
There's one element in the usual mass murder story which seems to be missing from this case. There's no sense of fear in this community. No feeling of a mass murderer on the loose. People we talked to seem to feel that whatever was the motive for this crime, it had something to do with the family. It's not something that's going to return to bother anyone else. In Amityville, Long Island, Phil Barno, News Center 4.
It was an unbelievable sight, I'll tell you that. We went upstairs. On the first floor, we saw Mr. and Mrs. DeFeo. There were no rifle casings. It was an automatic. Evidently, he must have picked up the shells.
I was greeted at the door by this detective sergeant that said, "You got 6 big ones." And that was my introduction into the DeFeo homicide scene. I kind of feared what he meant, that there was more than one body inside. It was just an awe to see these 4 bodies lying in their beds, all on their stomachs pretty much. I never encountered that kind of a homicide scene in my career.
So let's give her a try.
That could be heard reverberating probably for a good mile. And when you think about that rifle going off, a 35 caliber Marlin going off in the confines of a house, in one bedroom, the bedrooms of the parents and Allison and John and Mark were 20, 30 feet apart.
Yeah.
I forgot what night it was, but very, very cold night, freezing. And at first when they called us up, he says, "We have 4 dead bodies here." And I thought he was joking around, because I told him, nothing happens in Sleepy Hollow. We call Amityville Sleepy Hollow. This is it, so that's when we ran out. It was an unbelievable sight.
Donnie.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's like Mairead said, it's heart wrenching. And I misspoke. I want to correct that because I want to really try to get everything I say correct as possible here. I said he was 14 when he passed. He was 12. I was 14 when the book came out, which was about 2 years after. Everything moves so fast in this case. It was like lightning speed with the books and the movie and the bang and the trial. Everything was just bang, 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 bang. But yeah, so we were the same age. He was 12 when he passed. I apologize for that. It was wrong. But thank you so much for giving us. They were saying we were doing a great job on this, and it's a disturbing case. And it's a hard case, and I don't know which one has Godzilla in it, Blue. But if it's not made yet, I think it will be. Maybe the Mothman and some other stuff. But again, the thing that irks me with movies is visual is so strong. And I remember Jim Mars once was so upset about coming right out of his Stetson cowboy hat because Stephen King wrote the 11/22/63, and then the miniseries for Hulu was done with Franco.
James Franco, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, but the thing is he's saying Oswald did it alone again. You don't understand. We've worked so hard over these decades. And now the young crowd that's coming up that will watch that will constantly have that visual in their head again that it was Oswald alone. And it's like undoing everything, because visuals are like that. And I think that's why the movies get me. But somebody was asking about a possessed lamp. I mean, they're just making this, it's just making it up. All you need is that Amityville and it sells. It could be Amityville haunted slippers, makes your trip down the stairs a real horror. I'd buy them, but just I'm joking. I wouldn't. I just saw these cool slippers though. They look like monster with the teeth with the googly eye. Anyway, you get my point. Anything that you put on this and you stick Amityville on it, it's going to sell. And I think these people deserve more. They were real human beings. And they had a history, and a lot of the question, you guys forget about it. Yeah, it's coming up. I promise it's coming up. So here we go. Are we going to delve back? Donnie, you ready for the next one? This one? Okay. So basically, that was the night. This is what happened. That's what it looked like. That was real news footage. What we know right now is that somewhere around 6 o'clock in the evening, there was a small strip mall not far from the 112 Ocean Avenue, which the address has now been changed to 108 Ocean Avenue. You can still find it. People still do. It's crazy. I don't even know why they bothered doing it. And the windows have been changed. All that's old news. But he was in that often in that bar. It was just a hole in the wall bar, and he goes running in there. Some of his friends were there. They most certainly knew him. A lot of the neighbor people were there, and he said, somebody just shot my parents. And just like the young man who was bartending that night said in the newsreel, a bunch of people piled into his car. It was supposedly less than a block away, Donnie. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it was like right down the street.
Right down the street. Yeah. And they all jumped into the car and raced up there. From what I understand, unless corrected, Butch stayed outside and several people went inside, started flicking on lights, saw the parents dead, and then it began. I mean, it's just, and they said it just, when they walked in, the smell of death just hit you, which I'm bringing up because it tells me, I think they had been almost 24 hours at that point. Somewhere in the night before, certainly not the night coming up. This is already 6 p.m. He's running in the bar. And I think they were killed somewhere between 3 to 3:30 a.m.-ish, according to the ME, the night before. So they've been in there all day, everything all closed up. Okay. And I'll let Donnie take it from there. But that's kind of where we are. This is what we know. And at that point, you want to add anything up to this point? Because we're going to go back now with the relatives. Go ahead, Donnie.
I got the picture you sent me, Shell, and we will definitely get there. Oh, believe me, we'll get there.
Okay.
But the book actually that I was reading was it started the exact same way. It goes into the night that
does it?
Butch
okay.
runs into the bar. and
Okay,
tells
because I think
everyone.
that's like the only thing that's really undisputed. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that was the only thing.
that's the one piece of this case everybody agrees on. I think that's pretty much it, though, man. You know,
They call the police. They call 911 from there. I believe one of his friends made the call.
it was, yeah, I read the, hold on, I can give you the name because I read the 911 transcript. That is the one good thing about this. I'm telling you, once I'm done with this case, I don't ever want to, because it might have just been what, who knows. But anyway, I don't even want to say it. I don't want to give that straight. But yeah, it was, I can't pronounce this, is Yazwit, I think his last name was, but let me get it. It is important. Let me try to get this here without losing it. Yeah, it was the 911 operator was kind of giving him a real hard time too.
Yeah.
Did you pick that up?
Yeah, they mentioned that in the beginning.
Well, they made, for some reason, she kept making him spell his last name. Suffolk County Police, may I help you? Huh? Operator, this is Suffolk County Police. May I help you? We have a shooting here. Defeo. Sir, what is your name? Man, Joey Yeswit. 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 Can you spell it? Yeah. Yeswit. Operator. Yesw, huh? Can you believe this? This goes on for like 8 more lines. She keeps asking him how to spell his name. There's 6 people dead in the house. And probably, I don't know how many people milling around from the bar. I'd say it was like 4 or 5 people piled in that car, counting Butch, yeah? Somewhere around ish. Okay. And then goes on, and he doesn't know the exact address. And to the irony of it all, probably everybody listening to me say this right now could tell him what the address is, and he's standing in it and didn't even know. And that's how popular this is 50 years later. That's profound. You know what I mean? He's standing in the kitchen, doesn't know the address. So anyway, yes, he called 911, and it was 6:30 p.m. as of here, and that may be what you have, but it's somewhere between 6 p.m. and 6:30 he walks into that bar. The timelines do go askew depending on who you listen to after this point. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The police arrive not too long after the call is made, and then they go into the house and they discover the bodies.
Okay.
So during that video, I'm not sure if you guys were watching closely to the diagram, but what it showed was the layout of the house on each floor.
I can go back there. You want me to see if I can pull that up? But I also have a thing of it I can pull up later, or I can do that now. Whatever you want to do. What did you want to say about it?
Just that
I'm pretty sure I can get it.
They found on the second floor, where all the main bedrooms were Ron Sr. and Louise, the father and mother. They were in their bedroom, dead, face down, and then the 2 boys were John, that was the youngest,
of a house.
Oops, sorry.
Of a house.
I didn't mean to play it. Go ahead, honey.
Oh yeah, that's the 3rd floor.
That's the 3rd. You want the 2nd?
Yeah, sure.
There she goes.
Yeah, so that's the way it looks. So John is the youngest, and Mark is the 2nd youngest. He was the one that was
12.
in the wheelchair. It was a football accident, and I believe he had hurt his hip. And then there was Allison, who she was the younger daughter of the 2 daughters. And then there are the parents, and they're all found dead, face down. And then on the 3rd floor was Dawn, the oldest sister, who was 18.
It's almost the attic. It's the furthest attic room. Kind of like, that teenage girl by herself. There you go.
And the other room was Butch's old room. The book I was reading also goes into basically the first half is interviewing Butch and Butch's wife, which is the fact that a lot of people didn't know at the time of this case when it was popular, was that Butch was married to Geraldine. He had moved out of the house, so he actually technically was not living in the house, but he did spend a lot of time there. And we'll get into the reason why later. But he was actually Butch was actually living in New Jersey at the time.
It was basically 90 miles away from the house on Ocean Avenue. So if this part, now I want to go ahead and preface this. We can only tell you what Rick Osuna wrote in his book, what he documented, how he understood the documents, his sources, what the sources told him, and how much he checked and vetted them. Then again, you're saying, we don't know this person from Adam, okay? However, we chose this book because it opens up such a wide berth of other things, and then somebody else very similar comes through and does the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you this. What Donnie is telling you about Geraldine Defeo, and there's a couple other names in there too, because she was supposedly married. If we can take her for what she says, just saying as face value, she was married before, had 2 kids, married Butch, has a child that she claims is Butch's, and then it goes from there. She contacted Rick Osuna when Rick Osuna was working on another documentary, brought this information in. They weren't interested in this information. They wanted to stay horror. So he supposedly cut off ties with them and went this route, and then hooked up with another gentleman later on named, what's his damn name? I get it. It's like that. What's that actor's name? The Frosted Melon Krusty Bump. What's his name?
Kevin Bacon?
Oh, no, not even close. How did you get Kevin Bacon out of what I
just made
said?
a blind guess. Whenever you don't know, just say Kevin Bacon. Make you correct.
No. Chad will get it. What's the name of that guy? He's an English actor. Oh gosh, Cumberbund, something or other. We can't go further until we get this name.
What movie was
Cumberbund. Oh gosh. It doesn't matter. Let's go back. You want another video? Let's roll that bean footage. What do you think? But anyway, what I'm saying is his name was
Benedict Cumberbatch?
Thank you.
Oh. You should have just said Doctor
what.
Strange. I would have said Benedict
See, I don't watch any of his stuff though. But anyhow, this is the deal. Just about everybody involved in this story, and I mean every single person, from some uniformed individuals, some official individuals. I don't, I think the judge really just did what the judge, I've listened to him speak, and, I got nothing to say one way or the other about him. But usually everybody in this case, they'll say something, 2 people come and refute it and call them a liar. Then they come out and prove their case even more, and then more comes up, and then 10 more people call them liars, and they come up, prove something different. This has been going on 50 years. So yes, you're going to see stuff that says Geraldine's full of crap. Then you're going to see stuff where people are on her side and say that it's possible. And then you have people that, swear that what she's saying is the truth. So you're going to have to decide. All we can do is just give you all of the information that we can, because you can't get stuck in that. Well, I heard it was a mob hit and that's it. No, there's more involved. I heard that it was this. No, there's more involved. And the sad part, again, I keep focusing on is a family died in their beds. You see what I'm saying? And I'm focusing on paranormal possibilities of how did that happen? Could he have done it alone? Was there other forces involved? I'm not saying this guy didn't do it. I have no doubt in my mind that he was some way involved, somehow, which way, upside. And I don't believe a word comes out of his mouth. I have watched at nauseum a minimum of probably 8 hours of interviews over these past few decades that I could dig up of Butch Defeo, and I swear I can't believe a word he's saying. But if it matches with something else, is it a possibility? And where did that person get it? Did they get it from him? I've heard countless interviews where people said, well, I heard that such and such happened. Okay, here's one. Butch is sitting there. This is how outrageous Butch can be. Now you tell me whether or not you think this is true. And if it was true, don't you think we would have heard about it? Common sense, right, Lindsay? And paranormal world. And Edna, some of you guys have been interested in this just as long as me. So, some of this will ring true. Butch DeFeo is sitting there and he's talking to this guy. I can't remember his name. And I have his picture. We'll bring it up. I'll fix it. And I don't mean to be rude. It's just it's a long name. Hassenbach. Hassenpfeffer. It's close. I'm close, Donnie. I'm close. Is it Kyle?
Oh, you're talking about the
other guy.
The Ryan guy? Yeah. I don't remember
Ryan Kasselhoff. Ooh, that was close. That one was close. That was close. We're gonna get it. I swear to God. So anyway, the thing is yeah, and this is just this freaking case, man. You know what I'm saying, right, Lindsay? I mean, the paranormal, we got it tough enough in the paranormal world.
It's Ryan Katzenbach.
See? Thank you. That's crusty bone, cummerbund. So anyway, bless his heart. I mean, he went to a lot of expense. He went through this big thing. He wrote a great 6 hour, I believe, maybe 7 hour plus. Yeah. It's called Shattered Hopes. Very good documentary. I highly recommend it. It's free on YouTube. Watch it. And come to your own conclusions. But Rick Osuna is in that, and so is Geraldine. And so is some of the things we're going to tell you tonight. And then we've got things from other places too. But so anyhow, he's sitting there in prison. It was the last interview he ever supposedly allowed, Butch, in prison. And he says that they're talking about Hans Holzer when Hans Holzer came in there and said, and we'll tell you we're going to bring him up tomorrow with Steve and some other stuff too. And you know how much I love Hans. He went in there with Ethel Myers. We'll dig in. We'll tell more detail later. But anyway, he wrote a book, and I think he was the one that may have suggested there was something else going on in the house. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't read the book in years, and I don't want to misquote. But anyway, whatever he said, Butch said, I was really pissed off at that. That's when I hired 3 guys to beat him up, jumped him, beat him up, almost put him in the hospital. And supposedly Hans Holzer then ran off to Ireland to hide out for months. Now, don't you think if Hans Holzer got jumped by 3 people that had to do with this case or the writing of these novels, that we would have heard about it? Especially if he got put in the hospital. And I mean, even Ryan Castlebump, whatever his name is, he's sitting there talking to him, and you can hear him laughing in the background going, really? And Butch DeFeo is just straight as, yeah, man, I wasn't going to put up with that. That was disgusting. So again, the stuff that he says with a straight face. But I'm going to ask Blue, if I told you I had a witness and we're going to take a statement, but admittedly during the crime he was completely high on alcohol, methamphetamine, bad on that apparently, to where he lost a lot of weight. I'm not 100%. You might have more on that, but as far as I understand, and heroin, and he's shooting heroin at the same time, and probably sleep deprivation, and God knows what else was going on. How clear of a statement are you going to get? And how reliable is that statement? It kind of harkens over to the McDonald case with Floppy Hat Chick. Same type of thing. We're dealing with the same type of witness. Everything we said then would apply to him, no? I mean,
yeah.
Even though it was like hours after, he's still repeating the same behavior, the same day, but he's still talking about the night of, what were you doing? I don't remember. Well, I was on meth and heroin, alcohol, all at the same time. I don't know. I don't think I've ever been on those, I know for sure I've never been on all 3 of those things at once. I can't really, I would imagine it makes you a little wonky.
Yeah, I've never tried meth or heroin.
Me either. I mean, just give me a couple good shots of alcohol. I'm unreliable as all get out. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what you, I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? All right. So you want to do another one, Donnie? We're going to, Donnie has been gracious enough to take us down a little bit of, I know a little bit about this, and I'm going to let Donnie take the reins on some of the connections. I did a little video where it's got a little room to talk over. This one doesn't exactly play. I had to cut it. The sound didn't work toward the end, but we've got some good pictures of some of the other faces that are involved in this. What do you think, Donnie? Now you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Everybody good? Ready for another little shorty? I think it's only like 3 minutes, but it's got a lot of info in it. Let me see here. Here we go.
Yeah, that house is not as creepy as from the outside. I mean, it's actually quite pretty. There's Butch. Okay. Cisco, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you, honey.
All right. So, yep, that's Ron DeFeo Sr., the father. That is Louise DeFeo, the mother. So I guess we should talk a bit about their background.
Yep, it's coming up.
Okay.
It's definitely coming up. There's just a little pictures her, Brigante. Yeah. This is the Buick dealership that her father, this is Mike Brigante, and that is Louise's father. Now, I wanted to say something real quick before I forget. This part just of his character. Most of the people that knew him said he was a very sweet man, a good man to give the clothes off his back. Again, he's living in Brooklyn. This is 1970s. He is running this Buick dealership. By all means and purposes, more than likely a front for sure. Donnie's going to bring a lot of stuff up here. All the stuff you guys are saying, throwing out there, hey, connections and all this other stuff. Listen, everybody had connections. These guys were a little deeper than most think, though. So, not insinuating anything with that, just telling you what we know to be the facts at this time. But this is a grandfather that was kind of hands-on with the grandkids, even though at first, and I didn't know, Donnie, if you were going to touch on this, Ronnie Sr. and Louise met early in high school. She got pregnant after a quick tryst in the backseat of what was probably a Buick, and really pissed her father off. He disowned her at first. And I don't remember how much time was in between, whether it was that child or the next one, where they finally all came together and he started being more hands-on. But by all means, a quiet, giving man. Everybody in the town that knew him, that said something about him, seemed to like him. So that's just a little bit on his character as far as that goes. And with the kids, you just take the kids to go buy shoes like every couple of weeks, things like that. Spoiled his daughter, best perfume, best, whatever, she got it. So apparently when he made up with her, he went completely whole hog. So
and I also have to mention that Ron Sr. and Louise were originally from Brooklyn.
Yes.
And they had been living in that Amityville house for about 9 years before the murder took place. But before that, the family was actually in Brooklyn. That's what they were based out of. That's where all their friends and family were. So that's
a small cramped apartment. Yeah. And as you see here, it was a family business. So let's keep going here. It's real quick. It's almost done.
Okay.
Now, we know for sure he did help buy the house. I have heard some rumors that he bought it outright, no mortgage whatsoever, when he turned that over. And again, you got to think that might have had a definite nudge on the husband. Think about it. There seemed to be a lot of that going on. And here's the family again. Now, this is the part right here. The sound didn't work, so we'll just go ahead and take that one off, and you can take it from there, Donnie. Did you want to add to that? That's just a little bit about Brigante Buick being in Brooklyn. Go ahead.
So a bit about Brigante. So Ron Sr. worked for that dealership as a service manager. And if you know anything about the typical salary that someone in that position would receive, is nowhere near enough to be able to afford like that in Amityville, with the furniture and all the luxury items that you see in that house. So clearly he was getting money from elsewhere. Mike Brigante was basically the provider for the family. He was the one that I think he paid for like most of the house, if not all of it. He would spoil his daughter. Anything that Louise asked of her father, he would give her. And he was basically
spot on, Chris. Yep.
The I guess the source of money and income for the family.
Right.
So there was that. Ron Sr. actually worked for his father-in-law, but his father-in-law was the one who was actually providing for the family. Ron Sr. just kind of worked for him, and then the father-in-law would give money to his daughter, Louise, to her, and give her basically whatever she wanted.
Right.
If she wanted an expensive furniture. He paid for the portraits.
Yes, stop there for a second now.
Yeah.
That's important, Donnie. These portraits, now you will see them throughout. Some of the pictures you just saw were from the portraits. If it looked like an oil painting, that's the portraits. It's the only thing that Mike Brigante took out of that house when he left, with those portraits. He paid for the portraits. There were thousands and thousands of dollars.
They were like 50 grand.
Yeah, unbelievable to have this artist come in there. They kept calling him back and forth, and the only thing I think that has any with the artist coming back and forth was that people were trying to insinuate, mainly Butch from jail, was trying to insinuate his mom was having an affair. I remember a couple interviews he had where he said she was having as many as 4 at a time, and one of them was with this artist. Then other people come back and refute this and say, no, the artist was extremely devoted, religious man, devoted to his wife. They were never left alone. Ronnie made sure of it and talked about the red phone. And we can bring that up again later. But there's a red phone. You can see it in the crime scene photos. Ronnie Sr. was the only one who knew the number. Did you know this, Donnie?
Yeah, I mentioned that.
And he's the only one who knew the number. And he would call, and if he called, Louise better answer that damn phone, or she had some explaining to do. So that's just another little tidbit in there. But those pictures are real important because you see them throughout. They were up and down the stairs. And I believe that that's one reason that the portraits have been kept alive for 50 years with that. Such a prominent thing. And so many times those are used to identify, Louise or the children or, whatever.
And those things were huge too. They filled up like the entire wall. That's why one of the reasons why they were so expensive.
Yeah. And the fact that was the only thing that Mike Brigante took out of that house. I mean, we're going to get more in depth of what happened that night and everything. But to me, that says so much, and I mean, here's this guy, his heart's breaking. And, if he was involved, and we're going to talk about that, different things, I'm not judging, people did, organized crime, all that. The thing is he loved his daughter. This was his family. This was his whole world. This was all his grandkids. This was all of them. And he had to live, be left behind to live through watching his oldest grandson go through his stuff, however else you want to look at that. So, and yes, Sebastian, I think it is possible that a huge part of Jay Anson's book was not true. And that goes, a lot of people are saying that, from the Lutzes to, whatever. But we'll get there. Most of the Lutz stuff is going to be next weekend, but we want to build up this way. Tomorrow, it's trial, little Hans Holzer, little legend and lore. Because I know Sandy and Steve, that's their wheelhouse, and a little bit about the stuff that Hans found. And then we're going to get into both ends of this whole Lutz debacle thing going on. Okay, so there you go. Go ahead, Don.
Well, should we bring up now the connections that Mike Brigante had with the Mafia?
Oh, absolutely.
You want to go there? Okay,
absolutely. And I had a couple of little pictures there, but if you want, I've got some pictures in this one. It's a 2 minutes, and then we're done there, and you can just roll on if you want. You want to do that? And that way, because the chat's bringing up Pete DeFeo and the Genovese family and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to back up just a few minutes and watch this little guy here. And then Donnie will have some visuals to go with. And then we've got your slideshow too, hon, if you want. We've got your slides.
Okay. I think you already showed most of them, though. But yeah, we can go through it. We can look through it.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's 6:30 p.m. in Amityville, New York, on the night of November 13th, 1974. And what happens in this house is about to change the town forever.
Ronnie DeFeo Jr. went down to Henry's bar and burst into the bar and says, help, help, something's wrong. Somebody's killed my family.
It didn't take long for an officer to respond. There was actually an officer right down the street, and as soon as he arrived, the neighbors are all looking out their windows wondering what's going on.
Inside this beautiful waterfront home, police comb through a horrific crime scene.
And then to watch as law enforcement is just converging on this house, the media starts showing up, flash bulbs going off, everybody angling to see what's going on. And then suddenly a silence falls over the crowd as the body bags start being pulled from the house. And you can see in the archive photos that some of those body bags were very small because they contained very small children.
Remember, Amityville was the type of place where you didn't lock your doors. So you went from a very passive place to live to a how could that happen? I mean, it was just so huge. I mean, children. Why? Being that we were friendly with the DeFeo family, I can remember being afraid.
Robbery is the motive. We have ruled out no motive because we have no idea what the motive is at this time.
The rumors are going to start flying pretty quickly. And one of the rumors that really took hold was this could have been a mob hit of some kind.
The DeFeo family had connections to organized crime on both sides, maternal and paternal. So the Colombo and Genovese families were connected to the DeFeos.
Louise DeFeo was part of the Brigante family, that they were associated with the Mafia in New York City.
Yeah, that
Man.
mm.
Yeah.
So, Michael Brigante was connected to the Colombo family. He was very close with the head of the family. I forgot the guy's name. I didn't write down notes. I just read the book. So,
Which one?
Michael Brigante, he was a close associate of the Colombo family. The way the book made it out, it didn't make it seem like he was an official member. It was mostly he had a very close personal relationship and friendship with the head of the Colombo crime family. So basically, what was going on was that the Buick dealership, they believe, or allegedly, was a front for money laundering. And so apparently car dealerships are really good for that.
Right. And there was a lot of great stuff in the chat about stuff being in the back of the paintings, and I can't say that there wasn't. That's a great observation. Things hidden in the back. The only thing is, I think there's money probably everywhere, but the biggest thing is the car dealership, and that's one thing that Butch often said, and there's no reason to disbelieve this, is one of the jobs he had was running payoffs to this judge or this person or this this place over here.
He was the bag boy.
The runner, the bad guy, and like he'd go get parts and stuff. Either way, his dad lorded over him at home and at the shop, and his father, Ron Sr., keep in mind, this is his father-in-law, and he's working for him. So again, that's going to cause some friction. And, like, you're not a man. He bought the house for you. He did this. And shit just seemed to roll downhill, did it not? I mean,
you could tell Ron Sr. was very resentful of his father-in-law for being in that position. People say that Ron Sr. was involved in the mafia, and I think a better way to put it is he was a mafia wannabe.
Right.
He wanted to be in the mafia.
Yep. And did we tell his father?
So his
father is Rocco.
Yeah, his
Defeo.
father is Rocco Defeo, and
who's his brother?
Peter Defeo.
Yep.
Who was a hitman for the what was his name? The Genovese family. Yeah.
Yep. He was a capo. I don't know if he was a hitman. I know he was a capo, and usually at that point, the capo points and other people do it. But I don't know. I mean, that's speculation. It's not speculation that Rocco Defeo is Ron Sr.'s father, and his brother is Peter. Now, I showed that video again, what the night was like. You're looking at all of these. This is 1974, November. Okay, in Long Island. So you see everybody out there in their coats. You see the girls with the long straight hair. You see the guys with the hair is a little bit past their shoulders, like kind of really roughing it. If you could have saw their feet, I guarantee that they had bell bottoms on. And all these people are just standing in the street. That night they're watching the bodies come out. And then after that, and they never really stopped standing in the street staring at this house. They're still doing it to this day. And we're going to have stuff that comes up, especially tomorrow, too. I've got That's Incredible. Everybody keeps talking about. It's a terrible copy, but man, it's worth watching. Get to see, a little bit of, what it was like for another couple to live in that house. And I've constantly heard throughout people get really pissed off, especially the Lutz boys that are, Danny and Chris, who are older now. They're almost my age. And they're constantly putting that down. So the thing about that night is when Mike Brigante got there, I don't know if you want to talk about this, Donnie, or not, but I found this fascinating. The night of.
Oh, can we do that a little later?
Yeah, sure. But I just want to tell about that kitchen part. Do you remember the kitchen part?
Yeah.
So this has to do with what Donnie's telling. This is the absolute circus that this thing was in the kitchen at one point of that night. Now, eventually everybody got moved across the street to a neighbor, and they use that as kind of like the compound, headquarters. But at this point in time, Mike Brigante gets there, pushes his way through the crowd, makes his way, gets into the kitchen. Now, who's in the kitchen? You got Mike Brigante, the grandfather, just found out his whole family's been wiped out. Butch is sitting there at the kitchen table, and he's got Bobby.
Kelsky.
Yeah,
Bobby
got.
Kelsky.
Yep, he's got him in there, which is his friend. Father McNamara is there. Rocco Defeo. Okay, Ron's father. And Rocco Defeo asked to use the phone in the kitchen. He asked one of the cops, and one of the police officers, Randazza, was there, and other assorted nuts. I don't know who. But anyway, the most important stuff I've mentioned. These are the people that are in this freaking kitchen. Rocco Defeo asked to use asked the police officer, "Hey, Jamie, welcome in." Ask the police officer, "Can I use the phone? I want to make a phone call." Makes a phone call. He's talking. He notices that the cops see him, so he kind of cuts it short, kind of hides what he's doing. Now, this is the old days where you've got, the rotary phone or the push button, whatever. Cops look up to see what phone call he made. Who did he call, Donnie?
He called Peter.
Pete. He called Peter Defeo. And Peter Defeo, just another fun fact, his alias was Philip Aquafina. What was it? Was it Aquafina? No, that's a water. Wait a minute. Was it Aquafina or... Hang on, it's close to that. Aquilina. Yep, Aquilina. Tell me that's not a name. Yep. That was his alias, Philip Aquilina. Anyway, you're calling the capo in the middle. So people who tell you at this point, what we know is if people tell you there was no mob ties, you're full of crap. The guy did it. Get over it. Like an Oswald thing. You go, ho, ho, ho. That's not true. There is some fact-based information here that, yes, there was all that involvement was going on. Now, if that changes the case, if that changes who did it or did it, I can't tell you that. But this is known fact. Okay, go from there, Donnie.
Okay, I'll tell you what work Ron Sr. actually did for the Mafia.
Okay.
He was not a made man.
Right.
In fact, he wanted to be, but they rejected him because he had a tendency to brag about having mob ties. Whenever he got into an altercation with someone outside the family, he would always say stuff like, "Well, I've got, I'm in the mob and we can do this and that to you." And he was very...
That's what got Gotti. See what I did there?
Yeah, exactly. He was like one of those people that would always just talk about it and was very loud about it and very abrasive about it. So when the actual people in the family got wind of that, they were like, "We don't want this guy to be a made man." He did do work for his father-in-law, who did do work for the Colombo family. Now, his job was, because the dealership was being used as a front for money laundering.
Right.
Ron was responsible for the books. He would take him home every night.
Yes.
He was the one that was responsible for balancing the books. Apparently, he was actually quite talented at money laundering and cooking the books, as they call it.
And he kept two sets of books. Yep. And Donnie and I, as well as other people, think he may have had 3 sets of books. That's how good he was.
Yeah.
But I digress. Go ahead.
So he was actually working for the Mafia, doing the books, but he was not a member of the Mafia. In fact, they didn't want him to be because they thought he was just too much of a loudmouth.
Right. I just real quick. This is Rick Osuna.
Yep.
This is the gentleman who wrote the book that Donnie read this week. Okay, this is Rick. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. So you got a face to go with the.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And there's George and Kathy Lutz. We'll get to them later. And and
we'll get to these guys later. Yeah, but I would like to say this, and I'm going to say this throughout tonight, because tonight is it's kind of the DeFeo's night. To me, it's so tragic, and I can't get past the fact that this is tragic. This is Dawn, and this is Father Roger. You're going to hear more about him, Geralt, or whatever his name was. But this is Dawn, and this is Louise, her mom. She's wearing the famous heart chain here. This was mere weeks. Okay? Mm-hmm. This was just weeks. I mean, under a month, where all of these people stood out there to get their picture taken with his father, not knowing that they would all be dead within just a couple of weeks. So,
Yeah.
it just blows my mind. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. This case, man.
Yeah.
So he was cooking books, and he had at least 2 sets.
Yeah.
I think 3.
And he was good at it, apparently. That was like the one thing he was really good at. But you could tell it bugged him that he was technically working for the Mafia, but he wasn't accepted. And I think he had like a real chip on his shoulder. And I think we should start. I think we should start talking about like some of the allegations of abuse.
Sure, right ahead.
Get into that.
Yep.
Yeah, Ron was a very abusive guy. The first half of this book is a lot of like just really horrific stories of like some of the beatings he'd give to his wife. Like one example was like, she was like the kids were making too much noise. Ron got back home from work. His wife is coming up the stairs from the basement. I think it was from the cellar.
From the laundry room. Yeah, from the laundry room.
Apparently,
in the basement.
she didn't do enough to keep the kids quiet, so he just walks up to her and just clocks her in the face, and apparently she like falls down the stairs.
And he just slams the door.
Yeah, and then he just kind of goes back to what he was doing as if nothing happened. He was real abusive, real abrasive with everyone. I mean, he beat the hell out of Butch. Apparently, Butch got the worst of it because not only was he the oldest, he would also never fight back. And there are multiple witnesses who corroborated this, like people who were very close with the family, because he wouldn't care if it was out in public or wherever. He would just walk up to people and just start wailing on them.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where the children were young, too. I'd like to add this in because I think it does hold a little water for the abusive upbringing that he had. Now, like we said, we started in the Brooklyn apartment, cramped Brooklyn apartment. So the abuse was definitely there, too. I think it's important to know before they moved to the house, he was like this. There's countless accounts of family, neighbors, friends, seeing like when Butch was 18 months old. I mean, he was crying or fussing or something like this in a restaurant during a family party, and he just backhands this kid, bangs him up against the chair, and the kid just shut up. He did that his whole life. And then Butch, I think, went out into society and acted that way toward other people. I think he was a bully. I think more accounts that he was a bully in the schoolyard back in Brooklyn, chasing people, picking on people. I've heard even later accounts that he wouldn't walk away from a fight. Some said he wouldn't look for it. I don't know. It goes back and forth with that, but it definitely has to have an effect on you growing up in an abusive thing like that. And she was constantly covered in bruises, big sunglasses, big hats.
Yeah, she was constantly. And a lot of this is from the perspective of Geraldine because she was kind of an outsider who came in.
Right.
And naturally, one of the questions was Butch ever abusive towards you? And she said, and she had 2 daughters from a previous marriage. And she, according to her, Butch was never laid a finger on her or the girls.
Well,
he was never aggressive or violent towards any of them. However, Butch was a notorious philanderer. He was constantly cheating on her, but he never hit her. And they go into stories about that.
And I've also heard a lot of people trying to make a case on that, saying he couldn't have been married to Geraldine because he had a girlfriend. I forget what her name, Mixie Vixen or something. And then you got another one that was, and I'm like, he had so many. You know why? He had drugs. He had fancy cars, brand new cars, Buick dealer. He had money. His dad would give him hundreds and hundreds of dollars every week, upwards of $500 plus. This is in the 70s, just for kicking around blowing money. He didn't have to work. He wanted him at the shop to keep control over him and keep belittling him and make him his gopher and make him run and go do this or drop money off there or whatever. That was kind of what I got. Isn't that what you're thinking, Donnie?
Yeah, he was kind of the errand boy for his grandfather, and I think Ron Sr. also resented that as well, because I think in Ron Sr., the way they described him, he kind of had a fantasy, like he wanted to be a mob boss, so he felt like And a lot of what Ron Sr.'s psychology was is he felt like if it's his house, his family, he could do whatever he wants with them. And he said as much multiple times.
He beat the shit out of Dawn too.
Oh, everyone. Everyone.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
this
it would
one,
just be the beatings.
yeah,
That's what they
well,
would call it, the beatings.
well, there's this one story where Butch recounts where Ron Sr. took Allison, right, the younger daughter, by the hair, and he dragged her up the stairs and then downstairs, and then up the stairs and back down the stairs, and her head kept hitting the stairs until finally, when no one would fight back against Ron except Geraldine, because she didn't know them very well. So she took a crystal, I think it was like a crystal dish, and she cracks it over Ron's head. And then when Ron is dazed, they run out and they grab Allison. Butch and Geraldine grab Allison and take her to the hospital because she's gotten like a lot of, she looks pretty beat up. So then when they finally get to the hospital, Ron comes in and he's pissed. He's not pissed that he got hit with the crack with the dish. He's pissed that they took Allison to the hospital because what he said was, she's my daughter. I could do whatever I want with her. How dare you take her to the hospital without my consent? If I wanted to kill her, then it's my right to kill her.
This was Ron Sr.'s persona.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's important to understand this because, like I said, there's more coming up here, as far as what his plans were and what might have been going down. Now, the dealership at this point in time, this is mere weeks before the dealership is getting ready to do what, Donnie?
Getting ready to close down.
It's getting ready to close down. I'm digging on stuff, trying to figure out why. I'm just pulling up the money. First of all, you got the energy crisis, you got this, you got that. It's possible it's going to be moving. There might have been something else, down the line for Mike Brigante. I'm not sure what the idea was going to happen with the DeFeos, but things were really starting to get shook up here, right?
Cisco, I'm going to take a quick cigarette break.
Go ahead. Go ahead, sweetie.
Hold court for me, please.
Yes, I got you.
All right.
So the thing is I'm not really sure what the idea was. Like, did Brigante, were they going to open up another one? Was it just moving? I don't know. But there was also, they were missing money. Now, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody. And Donnie can probably go into more detail on this because, again, I think it's important. But there were some things going on at the time. Now, at this point in time, since Donnie's taken the little break, I want to introduce you to a couple of people verbally, and then at the end of this, I've got some pictures and a couple of things that they said. Because in all of this mess, over 50 years, you need some anchors. Now, again, to answer your question, Sebastian, did Jay Anson make up the book? We're going to get to that. How much of it did he make up? We're going to get to that. Is there a dispute? I can tell you right now, there's so much of a dispute that I have heard, and I've not been able to prove it with my own two hands because I can't get a first print copy. But if you guys have a first print copy of this book, hardcover, and you match it up to the paperback, apparently there's a lot of differences there. There's whole pieces taken out and changed in the paperback that was in the hardcover. I read the hardcover when it first came out. And that's why I'm so adamant about telling everybody, any movie that was made after the first one, just forget it. Just forget it had anything to do, it's in name only. They use the name of the town is the only thing that's the same in there. And probably the Lutz's names and probably the DeFeo's names. And maybe a couple of people that were involved, maybe their names too, I don't know. Or characters. But other than that, made up out of whole cloth. The book that Jay Anson wrote, the movie is different from the book. And the movie took things and went crazy with it. But those people that I mentioned that I kind of needed as anchors who really didn't change their story and are very careful about forming an opinion are actual, believe it or not, journalists and a couple of investigators that kind of didn't change their story. I might not agree with everything they said, but they're not changing their story about the events that happened. And one of those, you saw her twice now. Her name is Laura Defeo. And Laura Defeo was a small cub reporter. She also had, well, I don't want to say that because that might have been an insult to her, but she was had a radio show that dealt with the strange and paranormal and things like that. I think it was WNEW, maybe WOR out of New York, one of the two. But she worked for Channel 5. And when this situation came up with the Lutzes, she was called in. Her station said, look, we got, something. They said there's some ghosts and a pig with the eyes and stuff. This is crazy. We need you to figure out what's going on. What do you think? And she was doing the story about it because people heard in the newspaper when the Lutzes left and everything. That's when Laura got involved. Before that, the reporter that there was several reporters. One of them I really like is Joel Martin. And you know what I mean when I say Joel Martin, I'm sure, Donnie. He's kept his through the whole thing. He's like, I don't know. I was here. This is what happened. And I think he's almost humbly credited for the 315. Because he says, I might even be, the first time I heard that, this guy was standing outside of the house. I mean, he was called, he's a Long Island reporter. His group called him. You heard him in the thing.
He was the first one there.
Yeah, you get over there, and he's the first one there, and he knows a couple cops, so he actually got to get in the house for a little bit, and he saw what was going on in the kitchen, and he kept a real good detailed report to this day. And he was just in the last one documentary. I would say if you want to watch something, watch this one, but I'm not going to promise you anything with it. But it was the one done by Danny Lutz. And it's called My Amityville Experience. And Laura Defeo's in that. They bring back Joel and a couple other parapsychologists that were involved at the same time. Brought him back again 50 years later. So, and he tells his story. And I think you'd be surprised by it. But that being said, there's a couple of people in here that are kind of anchors, and Laura and Joel are two of them because they kept their integrity through the whole thing. And they'll tell you, I was in the room. I didn't feel anything, but I saw this. I saw that. Or that guy, and stuck with the Lutzes, Laura did, throughout. And the Warrens. She's the one who got him there. Holzer, she spoke to him, and everything else. So all of these people, I kind of look at them and see what do they think, and they kind of keep an opinion, and we'll get more into that after in next weekend and tomorrow night too. All right, Donnie, go ahead. Where were you, honey? We were talking about Brigante Blue was about to get shut down, and the money missing.
Okay, so we're at the point where we're like a few months. So well, actually that year people were saying that Ron Sr. was starting to lose his grip on reality. Like he was becoming more and more abusive, more and more crazy. He would one of the
things, where he was going to Canada?
Yeah.
If you want me to pull that up, I'm going to run and get some tea, but here's the picture of the priest. If you're going to tell about, I think this is important to touch on because it was almost like Ronnie was getting spiritual kind of.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Go ahead, honey. I'm just right around the corner real quick.
So a big part of the story was so Ron Sr. takes his family up to Canada to visit, and they go to this oratory. I forgot the name of the oratory. It was a Catholic oratory where he basically became impressed with the place. He developed a relationship with the priest there. He started donating all this money to them, and this is where the story gets kind of weird. The priest basically says, oh, you've got psychic gifts. You've got ESP. You have the gift of prophecy. So Ron Sr. not only did he live in a fantasy world where he thought of himself as a mafioso, he also saw himself as a psychic, a guy with the ability to tell the future. Now, in one instance, he forbade Louise from driving because apparently he had a vision of her dying in a car accident. And And this weird priest kept saying, "Oh, you have the gift of ESP. If you send us more money, your psychic gifts will grow," or some weird stuff like that. And this was corroborated by multiple people, people close to the family, that Ron Sr. was going around telling people that he was a psychic and he was a mobster. As he started to lose his grip more and more on reality and his behavior became more unpredictable, there were accounts of him doing things like neighbors would see him outside in the middle of the night in his underwear praying in the backyard in the grotto.
Yes,
There was a statue of Jesus. And basically what would happen was he would beat up on his wife, and then he would apologize afterwards, and then he would go to the grotto to pray in front of the statue of Jesus, saying, "Oh, you know, forgive me." In his underwear in the middle of the night, neighbors are noticing. His wife comes out with his like all bloodied up, and she's like, "Hey, get back inside." And then Ron will turn in the middle of his prayer, will turn around and say, like, "Shut up before I punch you again." And then go back to praying.
Yeah. Oh, he was
something
trick.
else.
Now, did you tell him the part where he's going to Canada?
Yeah. I told him about the priest. Yeah.
And it was like the more money he gave to the priest, the more gifts the priest would tell him that he had. Like he could do all these predictions. He even said had a prediction that Louise was going to get in a car accident, so he grounded her at home where she couldn't use the car. I mean, you know. I mean, they saw this guy coming, and he did have religious statues. I think that's one of the creepiest things in these crime scene photos. I mean, there was so many religious statues in the front yard and in the house.
He had one in the grotto. He had like a thing of like the nativity scene in the front yard under the sign that said "High Hopes." The grotto was where he would go to pray, and then he had a couple like he had like a religious altar set up in his room.
Yes. This is Geraldine, by the way.
Yeah, that's Geraldine.
If we didn't show her picture before, this is Geraldine. And I'm going to tell you, I'm like, you know, I've seen documents that says, you know, she's lying. Supposedly her ex-husband said I was married to her at the time. She couldn't have been married to him. And another document, another signed thing. And, you know, this long story about how Mike Brigante told her to, wipe out all of the her birth certificates and all this other stuff because they didn't want her to find her and some other thing. I don't know. You're going to have to, if you're interested in her and whether or not her story holds water, I would suggest you read the book or at least watch Shattered Hopes, which I think has a lot of this, Donnie. As far as, you know, kind of what you're talking about. And it also shows her talking, and you can assess for yourself, you know, whether she's, you know, telling the truth and what you think about it, you know. But at this point in time, I have no reason to believe her or disbelieve her, you know, because some of the things she says really hooks in with other people, doesn't it, Don?
Yeah.
Can we see the religious statues here? You can see some of them. There's the sign, High Hopes.
High Hopes.
This is from the side. You can kind of see him here off to the left a little bit. You can see the statues standing in the thing, but they were encircled. All this white stuff around against the house, the statues in front, and then there was a big kind of a crescent shape of all the statues in front of that too, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really like over the top.
Another weird story. Bobby Kelso was Butch's best friend, and Butch had like 3, like I guess homies that would always hang out at the bar down the street, but then they would always be in and out of the house.
Right.
He liked to have his friends over and in the cellar where they had like pool tables and couches and TV, and they would basically go there and do drugs and shoot pool and stuff. And they were there all the time. They were kind of like his little posse. And
Mairead is at it again. I think she's paranormal skinny dipping again. It's okay. Just let her go. She's good. She's got it. She's under control. We're all adults.
Okay.
She's paranormal skinny dipping. Aren't you, Mairead? Is that what you're doing, honey? You know, everybody has their own way of investigating. Who am I to say?
To each their own, I say.
You know. Let us know if you get any EVPs, honey.
Blue Cross
I love you.
asked what kind of drugs. From what I gathered from the book, they mostly did... They smoked a lot of weed.
Who is this,
There was
Dawn?
a little bit of Blue Cross was that. Like Butch and his pals. Mostly they drank a lot and they would smoke weed. Occasionally they would do heroin. I know Butch was very like, one of the things he was known for was if he did heroin, he would go to the bar, but he would just get soda because apparently you're not supposed to mix heroin and alcohol. I don't know that.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard both with him. Again, this is one of those things.
Yeah.
I've heard he was full blown crazy, wide open and all of these things from he himself, from other people. I mean, he even at one point said that he knew the Lutzes before. This was in the same interview where Hans Holzer got the ass kicked, that he knew the Lutzes before, and he used to get George Lutz heroin, and she didn't want heroin. She wanted cocaine, so he had to go to a separate place over on some Weiss Avenue or something to get her cocaine, and that they got with him first to do this whole thing with the house. I mean, that's out of his mouth. But however, I've heard so many things out of his mouth. I can't one way or the other with that. Now, I did hear, now this gives more credence to this side of the fence on that one. Someone asked Laura Dedeo that, and that was somebody who right away got with the Lutzes, went to California, stayed with them, knew the kids when they were little, throughout this entire thing, back and forth for years and years and years. And she says there's no way they knew each other, that they didn't know each other. They may have bumped into each other at the grocery store. It's not that big of a place, but Long Island isn't that small of a place either, but she doesn't hold any credence to that. And that's somebody who would be looking at deeds of a house, and she's a good journalist who really dug because she had to. Here's why. 1970s, she's 20 years old, she's a woman in a newsroom trying to make a place for herself. So she was extremely careful about saying, I got a story. She would go get the story and then come back, here's the story, especially when it was in this genre, because everybody's making fun of her anyway. And she had to do everything. I get that, because I understand being a female in the Army back in the day, you had to do things 3 times to get credit for one. You know what I'm saying? So I tend to believe her. And she, so like I said, it's one of those kind of magnetic norths, it's like my true north right there. So go ahead, Donnie.
Blue Crossroads asked if there was any evidence of Butch moving drugs for the Mafia. There was no information in that regard.
I didn't get any of that either.
No. He did
payoffs. Yes,
he did payoffs. There were some rumors about him helping to dispose of bodies because I guess they had access to the scrapyard.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess we can go into.
Did you go into the money right before?
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. I think we can go into that.
Hit that. Do that one, because this I think is important. And again, Laura backs up on this too, and I'll tell you what she said after you're done.
Now this is like a couple months leading up to the night of the murder. Now this is where things start unraveling, and things for the family start unraveling real fast. So it turns out that Mike Brigante is going to eventually work towards shutting down the dealership because there was too much.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is cool. This is so nice. Oh, chat participation. Sebastian, let me read this. Thank you, Cisco. I've ordered a 1977 hardback of Jay Anson book. I had an old paperback copy, and now we'll have a version with nothing taken out. How about that? This is so cool. Let us know. Keep us posted, because I'm extremely interested. Like I said, I just couldn't get a hold of, to do. That's great, And see, it takes a village sometimes. It really does. And I think it's wonderful. Just like when Laura went and read the McDonald case and was able to tell us things along the way. So there you go. I just think that's wonderful. Sorry for your interruption, honey.
So Mike Brigante makes plans to eventually shut down the dealership. Meanwhile, Ron Sr. this whole time has been embezzling money through picking up the books. He's been embezzling money from his father-in-law because I guess he felt like he was owed, because he would talk so much shit about him to his family too. That's the other thing I didn't mention. Like he would put
Mike through hell.
Yeah.
He would write them handwritten letters, like from a little
Mm-hmm.
kid, that says, fuck you, you suck, I hate you, fuck you, and just letter after letter after letter, and put it on his desk just to make him go through the reading of it, and this guy was so sweet and so,
At one point, according to Butch, at one point, Ron Sr. asks Butch to do a hit on his father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And Butch, the only time in his entire relationship up to this point with his father that he defies his father's orders, because for Butch, he was closer with his grandfather, because his grandfather was always sweet and kind to him and provided for him. He was actually more loyal to Mike Brigante than he was to his own father. So when he defied his orders, he's driving to work the next day and he notices that his brake lines have been cut.
Yep.
And so he figured out right away.
And his dad was laughing when he come peeling in, and there was witnesses that were laughing at this. This was such a volatile. When I said there was abuse of, this and crime and extortion and fear and pain and, these kids, the shit they went through. I think it's important because if you take out paranormal, supernatural possibilities, there's a reason those kids were face down, clutching their pillow in their beds. They'd done it every night probably of their lives. Just stay down and stay out of the line of fire. It's possible. It's possible because fear will keep you trapped to that bed. Why, some of them didn't get up and run. I don't know. And
well, Mark didn't have a choice. He was infirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't even know. Yeah, true. But I don't even know how long this fight went on, and the kids heard what, or whether it was the shots or whatever. So even up to that point, staying in their rooms and staying head down in the bed, you try to be invisible if you're in an abusive home. You just don't know if you're next. You know what I mean? So that's possible. Now, was it Ronnie the only one that said that? But Geraldine backed that up, and a couple other people too, that he actually was asked to kill the father.
Oh, asked to kill the father? Actually, a couple, because he was supposed to do it with Bobby. So I know Bobby was in on it. By this point, Bobby had been was his friend. This was another story I was going to get into earlier, but Bobby, Butch's best friend, had been working also for Ron Sr., doing odd jobs here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And as a reward one day, Ron Sr. goes to Bobby. He's like, hey, come down to the basement with me. And he does this like prayer, and he kind of prays over him. And people were like, what are you doing? And then it turns out Ron Sr.'s like, congratulations, you're the first member of the Defeo crime family. He was like in his own mind,
making his own,
making his own crime family, and he was basically inducting Bobby as the first, I guess, made man. This is how like in his own little fantasy world he was, right? So eventually, because word has come out that the dealership is closing down, Butch and Bobby, they fake a robbery, and they steal about $19,000 worth of checks from the dealership.
And money. Yeah. And now that's a big deal because they go back. This was a couple weeks, just like 2 weeks for the murder, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Now they go back and say, we were robbed, we were mugged, and you can watch Butch Defeo in interviews from the jail cell, live from the jail cell, telling you, if it was me, I wasn't driving, because if it was me, I'd have gone up on the sidewalk and I'd took people out, because I ain't going to go, I ain't going down like that, but I wasn't the one that was, and he's like talking like this, it's like he's going to be the tough guy. He's going to be the, you're not getting anything over on him. He had the best looking girlfriend. He was dating a young black woman, and she was living in the projects or whatever. And he used to go walking up in there. They didn't understand how I could go walking up there. But, I'm a Defeo. It's on me. He talked a good game on his own self, and I think, I'm no psychologist, but I know that is a symptom of abusive lifestyle, because now you've got to go out in the world and prove you're not the piece of garbage that your father keeps telling you, worthless this and everything else. You're going to go out into the world. You're going to be the tough guy that he's proud of. It's in every mafia movie you ever saw, even, even, Bronx Tale and, even the more gentler ones that just tell the truth. Look at how many of those kids are up against their father. And, in the Bronx Tale, the father was a hardworking bus driver. This kid didn't want that. He wanted the mafia life, and he had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He thought his father was a stooge for going to work. So it's just all this mentality going around the same time. But to back up that story Donnie just told you, my anchor, Laura Didio, she, in another interview, actually said, I've heard the stories. I've heard people say that wasn't true. That was just another way of, $19,000. It sounds like a lot. They kicked around a lot more than that. But she thinks that Butch did it because she said, look, he was stupid about it. After the fact, he didn't even try to hide it. He was out blowing money left and right, more than usual even, because like I said, his dad would give him money. And cars and whatever. So he had an excess of it. And I think in one storyline, he was actually at the mall shopping the night of, or he went there. It was either the night of the shooting or the night of the discovery of the shooting, one of the two, that he was actually kicking around at the mall shopping and did some other things before he, some of this stuff. So she thinks he did it. So
the book doesn't go into the reason why he stole that money. I forgot to mention the reason why Ron Sr. ordered Butch to kill his father-in-law was because earlier a couple of men came to the house and Ron wasn't home, and then Louise answered the door, and they basically gave a threat saying like Ron better stop what he's doing or he's going to be found in the gutter. But it was very obtuse and obscure, and she didn't know what was saying. But when she told her husband that, Ron Sr. assumed that it was from Mike Brigante, so that he ordered Butch to murder or put a hit on his father-in-law. Butch refused, and then that's when he cut his brake line. So
and there's also the story about him going up to his dad at one point in time with a gun and clicking it, and it wouldn't go off. And Ron Sr. thought that was a miracle, that he was supposed to live, and that was another sign from God. And I'm sure there was beatings ensued afterwards, but that was another story I had heard. I have no one way or another on that. But to me, it's like another beating story, and there was thousands and thousands and thousands of these stories.
The first half of the book is just about Ron Sr. beating up.
I don't know how this SOB lived. I swear to God, because the only thing I think that was protecting him is his father, Rocco. God rest his soul. They're all dead, all of them. And for Pete's sakes, Now Louise, I heard she was wanting to leave.
She left a couple times, and then there was one story where she left, and then Ron DeFeo, in order to get her back, wrote a song for her. And
I heard about it.
But by this point, she was so under his thumb and lost complete. She could have stopped the abuse anytime if she had only gone to her father and told him what happened. This situation reminded me a lot of the first Godfather movie. Remember when Talia Shire's character gets married to that douchebag and he keeps beating on her, even though she's the daughter of the mob boss.
Right.
And she could just snap her fingers and end it, but she was just so
good.
It was a very similar situation with Louise and Mike and Ron Sr. It was just like that. She could have just gone to her father and been like, "Look, my husband did this to me," and then Mike Brigante could have made him disappear.
She could have done it herself and called him up and said, "Come get the body."
Yeah.
I was like, "I've had enough of that. You touched my kid." I mean, this is it. You want it for yourself. That's one thing. You touched my kid. That's now in that case, I would have got both the fathers in there in the kitchen to look and I would have done it like the Godfathers. I come to you on the day of your daughter's marriage. It's like I would have made.
Wasn't her
I would have
attitude,
made.
though.
Yeah, no, I'd have made a nice sausage. This and that. Sat down my dad and his dad and go, look. You know what I'm saying? What do you got to take him out? But you did a lousy job. But see, most of the mafia, it just depends. This is old school mafia. It's been very much like Donnie said. It's hard to say. It's
Another
hard
story
to say.
to illustrate battered wife syndrome that
Yeah.
Blue Crossroads mentioned. There's this one story that Butch recounts where basically Butch comes in, Ron Sr. is is like punching and kicking his wife. Butch tries to intervene, like he tries to push him away from her, and then his wife gets up and takes a champagne bottle and cracks it over Butch's head.
Right.
For
she always stuck up for Big Ronnie.
Yeah,
and that's what pissed off. Yeah, that's what pissed off Butch, because and I think it had something to do with the night too, because one of his accounts, and God, there's so many, but he does mention that when he gets shot twice in the back, she yells out, "Oh my God, Ronnie!" And you can see in this interview, it was several different times, several different interviews, he mentions the same thing, and his face changes again. It's like, I couldn't believe she's sticking up for him. She's always sticking up for him. And bam, that's when she got shot. Then he adds in that she grabbed for the 38 that she had to the left side of her bed. He couldn't let that happen. Bam, he did it again. So there's many accounts. That one kind of sprung true to me because of the way his face went. And so either it was a memory from that point, that moment, or was a memory of multiple times she had taken up this guy over her children. And like you said, Blue, that's battered woman syndrome. Yeah, she had it to the point where she was going for the approval all the time. It was all about him. You know, even when they went to Canada, did you tell him that that's what he was going to do? He was embezzling money because he wanted to go up. We're going up looking at property in Canada because he was going to start a whole nother mafia of his own out there. And this is why he was getting with that little priest, and the priest was telling him he was gifted and he could tell prophetic dreams and prophecy and all this other stuff. So crazy, right? This is just leading up to the night of the shooting, guys.
So another detail is that after Butch and Bobby steal the $19,000 in checks, eventually Ron Sr. catches wind of it. He tries to find out where the money is because he wants it for himself. Eventually, there's like this house worker, this guy that works there who is a Vietnam veteran, and he tells Ron Sr. that he'll tell him where it is for $500. So Ron Sr.'s like, okay, so he gives him $500. The guy tells him where it is. He finds it. And then Ron Sr. basically turns around, takes out a revolver and shoots the guy in the head, kills him, and then gets Butch to get rid of the body because Ron Sr. said that if this guy is going to rat someone out for $500, who's to say he's not going to rat someone out for $5,000, you know? So he just killed him. So he killed a guy. He killed a dude like months before. Yeah. I don't know if it was weeks or months because the book didn't say exactly when, but it was like not too long before.
Right.
So he killed a guy.
And this leading up to what you're going to tell next is supposedly, according to Rikasuna, the account of what Butch says and Kelso and all these and Geraldine and everybody says happened that night. Yeah. Donnie's going to tell you this version. Again, I want to say this is just from the book. This is from all the people in the book. Rikasuna puts all his sources and his references just regular, and he worked many years on this. You got to wonder. But then again, if you're going to do something, just because he worked a long time, it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's not either. You're going to, this is that kind of stuff where you're going to have to pick through and decide what you think and what part anchors you. Like I said, I got a couple little things that anchor me throughout this, but we're not saying that this is the only account of what happened that night. There's many every which direction you can go in, but we're bringing this part to you because this is one that you may not have heard. Do you want to tell that, Donnie?
So the night of the murder?
Yeah.
Okay. So here
according
we go.
to this book.
This is according to this book, and this is according to interview with Butch and Geraldine. So on the night of the murder, Butch is at home in New Jersey with his wife, and he gets a call from his mom. And his mom basically says, you got to get over here. Things have gotten real bad with your sister. Now, the thing about Dawn, the oldest sister, was that as the 18-year-old, she was getting very heavily into drugs. She was getting abused. She was getting outright hostile towards the family. And she was basically getting out of control. She had a boyfriend in Florida that she wanted to move out there to be with him. But Ron Sr. basically didn't allow that. And so she started going crazy.
She even faked her own kidnapping for $5,000, trying to extort $5,000 from her grandfather. I'm just telling this real quick part because it's like 10 o'clock. We haven't even got to the murder yet. So, and I'm not trying to rush you in any way. I'm just trying to fit a lot of stuff in. She hired a couple of her friends to fake her kidnapping, was trying to get $5,000 from her grandfather because the kid wanted to go to Florida. Her boyfriend, she's a chubby girl, God bless her. She's got a complex because she's in this abusive place and her, with everything else. This guy, Bobby Kelso, according to this book and Geraldine and some other people, he really loved her. But his dad got a new job. He's going to Florida, wanted to take her with. Dad wouldn't let her leave. This girl's getting desperate. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was going. Oh, and it wasn't Bobby Kelsky that was her boyfriend. It was Billy something. Billy.
Yeah,
who was
in Florida.
Billy in Florida, who was a former friend of Butch's.
Mm-hmm.
So Butch gets the phone call from Louise saying, "You got to get over here. Things have gotten real bad." Butch is like, "What happened? What's going on?" And then Louise tells him, "Dawn took out a knife and tried to stab your father." And then Butch is like, "Okay," hangs up the phone. He's like, "Honey, I got to go back to Long Island. I got to handle this." Geraldine said that was like the one biggest regret of her life, to give Butch the phone that night. Because if she hadn't given him the phone that night, none of this would have happened.
Right.
Butch gets to the house. First thing he notices when he gets into the house, lying on the marble floor, is little John. John is the youngest, and his face is all bloodied up. And Butch goes to help John, and he's like, "Hey, what happened? What's going on?" John's crying hysterically. He's only like, how old again? Was he 10? He was like 10 years old?
Yes, I believe so. He was very close to that. Yeah,
Now-
because Mark was 12. He was about
10.
10. Yeah, I think he was about 9 or 10. Yeah.
So at that point,
Not
Butch
for
says
kids.
that he knew something was really wrong, because it wasn't like Ron to beat up on John. There was like an age thing where he wouldn't start beating up on you until you were a certain age, and it was very like even Ron Sr. had a line like where he wouldn't beat up on John. So when he saw John bloody like that, he was like, "Oh no, things are bad." He goes upstairs to the second floor, and the first thing he does is he checks on the kids. Right, he checks on Mark. He's like, "Hey, you okay?" And then Mark's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Just stay in your room." And then he checks on Allison. "Allison, you okay?" And then he goes in the parents' room, and then as he walks in, he sees Ron Defeo punch basically his mom in the face, or Louise in the face. Her clothes are ripped off, and without even saying anything, Ron Sr. is in such a manic state that he literally, as soon as he sees Ron, for no reason at all, he just starts charging at him. He starts charging at him. Butch runs downstairs to get away from him, and Ron Sr. trips over a pile of clothes that's left in the hallway, and he hurts his foot. And then while he's lying there, he's like, Ron's screaming like, "Oh, you kids are worthless. You're worthless, and you're worthless, and all these kids are people who are out to get me." And he's just going off and going nuts. Butch, because he's so used to it, he just starts laughing. He starts laughing at Ron. He's like, "You're just a fat whale, whatever," right? Louise goes over to take care of Butch to help him up. Dawn is upstairs on the third floor, screaming down at her parents, being like, "I hope you all die. I hate you all. I'm going to kill all of you. Screw you." And then so Butch is like, "I had enough. I'm just going to go downstairs, try to check up." He checks on the kids again. He goes down to the cellar, calls up Bobby. And when Bobby hears Butch, it said that Bobby heard Butch laughing. So when he heard Butch laughing, because he was laughing at his father, he thought, "Oh, it's like a party. He's got some good drugs. Let's head over," right? Butch comes down. Dawn comes down and she's like, we got to kill him. We got to do it. Oh,
And there was also the fact that Butch had a hit put on him, supposedly by his father. They wanted to get rid of him because there was something going on at the shop. And that was another thing. Again, I got nothing to back this up other than a few people. Yeah. And the brake lines didn't work. So they were going to try to kill him. And supposedly he had a hit on him to die before Thanksgiving. And Butch knew about it. And that was Dawn's push. I got to get rid of him. He won't let me leave. He's going to kill you. And then they're all yelling. They hear the piano going.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, wait. Hold on. Before we
ahead.
go there, another thing I forgot to mention. Dawn had written a song about wanting to kill her family.
Mm-hmm.
She fantasized
to the tune of "The Night Chicago Died" by Paper Lace.
There were other friends who would say that Dawn would walk up to him and take out like an empty pistol and like point it at their head and pull the trigger just to get to scare out people, and she would start laughing hysterically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with Dawn, she's at this point like completely bananas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And outright hostile, and Ron Senior's like, I'm going to kill you, and then Dawn's like, screw you, you fat whatever, what such and
just
such.
back and forth all night long.
Back and forth, screaming all night long. She comes down to the cellar where Butch and Bobby are like smoking weed and shooting pool, and she's like, we got to kill him. Come on, let's do it, right? And you're right. Butch and Bobby were already planning on doing like a hit on Ron, but they're planning on taking him out to Brooklyn and making it look like a botched robbery, right?
Yeah, like back over by the shop in Brooklyn, and he had it all taken care of. But Dawn was pushing, supposedly in this version, pushing. Now the thing is they start hearing loud piano playing, and Butch supposedly says, oh my God, it's going to start a ruckus. What do you do? And one of his friends went up to get something to drink and stops and starts playing really loud piano. They run up the stairs. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Died.
No. And runs up the stairs to stop him. Well, the guy was trying to cover up the fight that the mom and dad was still having, talking about killing their own children.
Oh, yeah.
Dawn, getting rid of Dawn and Butch. Supposedly.
Well, according to the book, so what happens is like Butch is asking Dawn, like, so what do we do? And she's like, why don't we, he's talking about taking him out. And the thing is, Dawn can't wait. She wants it done now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, let's just do it now. And he's like, but what about the kids, right? And then she's like, why don't we just kill the kids too? Because they won't have their parents with them. What kind of life will that be? And then Butch is like, no, hell no, that's crazy. All right, because Butch was
he loved the little ones, supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You heard that from a lot of people.
And then at that point, Butch is just like, listen, just stop. You're acting crazy. Just go upstairs, try to sober up. We'll figure this out. And then she comes back downstairs with the gun, and she does a thing where she points the gun at Butch and she pulls the trigger and nothing happens. But at this point, she had done it so many times, Butch didn't take it seriously.
Right.
But then Bobby was just like, oh my God, what's going on? Then the piano happens. And now the piano was being played by a third friend who was there. And he's kind of like the dude that's like always kind of in and out.
Yeah.
And the reason why he was playing the piano was because Ron Sr. and Louise were arguing very loudly from their room, where basically Ron Sr. was like, we got to kill Butch.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and so when
she's crying and saying no, and he's like, we have to do it, and he's going to kill us. And I mean, this is actually the stuff that's supposedly going on in the house that night. This is crazy.
Yeah. So Butch goes up not to listen, but initially he goes up to stop the guy from playing the piano.
Right.
But then when the guy stops to play the piano, because the only reason why he was playing was to drown out that sound, because he didn't want any continued drama. When he stops playing the piano, now Butch is listening to this conversation. Dawn comes up, she listens to it, and they basically hear the mom crying, saying, no, that's our boy, no. And then Ron Sr. says, listen, he's our son. I gave him life. It's in my right to take it away.
That's how he always said that. Yeah.
Yeah. He needs to be eliminated. And then finally, the mom just starts crying, and then Butch hears her agree to that. When Butch heard her agree,
that was it.
And Dawn heard it too, and then they both go downstairs, and then Butch just kind of puts his head down, and he's like, "I can't believe my mom just agreed to let my dad kill me."
Right. Now, there's multiple accounts here, but will say at this one point, everybody supposedly, either in one account everybody goes to bed, another account they're down there and they stay drinking. The main one is Butch is downstairs by himself watching television, and it was a World War II movie. They're saying it was violent, and he was drinking and he was worked up, and that's when he says he saw these black hands hand him the gun. Multiple people, it's important to mention this because multiple people will tell you, like Hans Holzer is quoted saying the black hands were his sister's hands handing him the gun. Then you have somebody else give their opinion and their point on it wasn't a dark figure handing him the gun or telling him to do it. It was Dawn. So you hear a lot of this being interjected in a lot of different ways here. And Gray, I'm on it with you. I'm not swearing that, because we know that people's energy can set off a house if there's stuff there. Vice versa, the house can set off people, and multiple, very much like the haunted house I grew up in when I was a kid. We're wondering, did my dad set it off? Did it set off my dad? Same situation, similar. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's why I think it's important for us to tell all these little things, because I think it's the little nugget of truth mixed in this whole well of bullshit. It's like I said. Go ahead, Donnie.
So
we got to get them to the point where they're shooting everybody, because it's almost 11 and we still got like another piece that you wanted to do. Go ahead.
So basically he's like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll do it, but we got to make sure the kids are safe. So he told Dawn to take the kids to the grandfather's house. But Dawn's like, no, let's do it now first, because otherwise, if we wait, you're going to start second guessing, and then you're not going to go through with it. We do it now, right? So the three of them, and at this point, everyone's gone to sleep except for Dawn, Butch, and Bobby. And so Dawn comes down with the rifle, right? She gives it to Butch. They go up to the parents' room. They open the door, and from the door, the three of them are standing there. And the other thing is, Butch actually has bad eyesight. So Bobby is holding a military-style flashlight, like the angled ones, and he's illuminating where the bed is. And then so Butch goes to aim at his father and his mother. Well, he aims at his father. They're both sleeping. But then he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is crazy. So then Dawn grabs the rifle from him. She's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then she just puts one in Ron's back. Right? And that's when Butch grabs the rifle from her. Louise wakes up. She screams, like you mentioned before. She's like, oh my God, clutching her necklace.
Ronnie, grabs a necklace.
And then Butch fires at his mom. And then so she gets hit back. At this point, Ronnie wakes up. And he's like, you little, and he starts bull charging them.
Yep, this is the first bullet that goes through his back, pierces a little bit of his lung, comes out the front, actually goes through the mattress and lands on the floor. One of the bullets they found on the floor, but he was able to push himself up. In some cases, he's actually up out of the bed, walking towards them, and it got shot again in the hallway. I have to give that account because in the Ryan Castlebaugh version that Rick works on too, in the Shattered Hopes, you can see where he found evidence that in the crime scene photos there was blood found in the hallway and on the door jamb going into the main thing. So that's important, because here's this great big man. He was pushing 300, wasn't he?
He was 270 pounds.
Okay. And the main thing in the court battles that we'll bring up again tomorrow night, we'll touch more on this, is how the hell could he have gotten that man up by himself and back into the bed? He had to have had help. The ME says he doesn't think that he could have done it by himself. He said that on the stand. He didn't say, I don't think Butch did it. He says, I think it would have been very difficult I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I think it'd be very difficult for one person to have pulled this off. That was the ME. And then there's other accounts, but I thought I would throw that in there right here at this point, because at this point, I don't know in this book whether they're talking about they shot the parents and then they leave because he's going to go do something, get whatever, and then Dawn goes nuts. Is that the one that's in the book, or are they all just doing it together?
Okay, so Ron Sr. bull charges them. He chases them out into the hallway, and that's where Butch shoots him in the chest, and then he finally drops. Dawn starts celebrating. Oh wait, no. Before that, then they realize that Louise is still alive. Bobby takes he's got a .38 Colt Python.
Okay.
And he's the one that delivers the final shot, and it was more of like a put her out of her pain kind of shot, because she was like awful. Bleeding out. Dawn is upstairs. She's like jumping around, hooping and hollering, all happy. Butch immediately goes to the kids, to each of their rooms. He's like, listen, guys, there was a robbery. And then the kids are like, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, calm down. There was a robbery. Mom and Dad got hurt. Don't worry. We'll take care of it. Just stay in your rooms. Whatever you do, don't get out. Because now Ron Sr. is dead in the hallway. At this point, Bobby freaks out. It gets to him. He throws the flashlight down on the love seat next to the bedroom, the parents' bedroom. He runs out the door, and then Butch is like, what are you doing? So he tries to run after him. But before he goes to run after him, he turns to Dawn, and he's like, Dawn, make sure the kids get to Grandpa's house, right? Take the kids in the car, take them to Grandpa's in Brooklyn, right? You make sure. And then Dawn is like doing whatever, and she's like, yeah, whatever, right? He goes out to chase Bobby.
Yeah.
He goes to all of his spots where he's looking for him, and then he finally finds him pulling away from his house. So he's like, what's going on here? Oh yeah, and by the way, the third guy was outside serving as lookout.
Mm-hmm.
So when he sees Bobby trying to leave, when he comes back after searching the neighborhood for Bobby, he goes back to the house and he sees Bobby's car pulling away from the house. He stops him in the street. He convinces Bobby to come back with him. By the time he comes back to the house, right, he says, like, the smell is very weird. He hears music blasting from the third floor in Dawn's room, and when he goes inside, he discovers that the kids have been shot. So he flips out.
He flips out. He's wrestling with Dawn.
So he flips out. He checks on Allison. She's dead. Now he's completely because his priority was keeping them safe. So then he goes to Dawn's room to confront her. And when he opens the door, the rifle is sitting on the floor, like in between them. And he's just like, you fat bitch, right? And he goes to pick up the rifle. Dawn charges, tries to wrestle the rifle away from him. And so they're in this, wrestling match. And he eventually gets the upper hand and he pushes her into the bed and her head hits the headboard and she's like knocked out. And then he just turns the rifle on her and then bam, hits her right in the neck.
Now, what's the one piece of evidence that has come out of this? That now tomorrow we're going to go over a little bit more of the police, the corruption and things like that, touch on some other stuff. But what's the one piece of evidence that would tell you that story might be true? Do you know what I'm talking about as far as her nightgown?
Yeah, there was like some gunpowder residue on her nightgown, which would indicate
some unburnt. Yeah.
Yeah, which would indicate that she had discharged a weapon. So when he finally kills Dawn, the rest of the time it's just him and Bobby scrambling to get everything back in order, put all the bodies back into bed. They both get Ron Sr. back into bed. And basically they just what happened was Dawn, when Butch was gone looking for Bobby, Dawn apparently had taken the rifle, gone into each of the rooms and ordered the kids to lie down and then shot them all point blank.
Horrible.
Even though Butch trusted her to take them to the grandparents' house. So when he shot Dawn, it was out of one, just revenge and rage for having killed the kids, but two, because she was going for the gun. So she was going to shoot him.
He was going to shoot him too. That's kind of the main thing. Now, that is the account That is it. Yeah, Davey, it is. It's terrible sad. So that's the account that is based in the book, The Night the DeFeos Died. It goes
Mhm.
into great depths. If you
Yeah,
know,
I left out a lot of details. That's the general
and I
gist
think
of it.
Sebastian ordered that book too, so he can come back in and tell us. So again, what we're doing is trying to offer you a few accounts that we heard. I wouldn't even mention one if there wasn't some backup to this. Okay. It's another way of looking at that thing. It actually came up in court. There was a lot of battle back and forth. I believe that Hans Holzer actually picked up on the thing with Dawn. I don't want to put words in his mouth because I haven't been able to in-depth study that. I mean, he wrote 3 books on it, but I do have an interview that's going to tell you a little bit about it. So we're not offering this to say this is the only account that could be possible. In 50 years, we've not been able to do that. Blue brought up a great point too, that at the time, a lot of the cocaine that was coming through, was coming. Colombian is totally different. It's like certain tribes and Native American tribes. There's a tribe called Red Stick. And I know a few of them. And one of their tactics was to go in and kill your whole family while you're laying there sleeping. So when you wake up, you see your whole family bled out around you.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tactic. Colombian, very similar. The Mafia from the 70s had this thing, we don't touch family, we don't touch kids. We're not saying this was Mafia. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm not saying that, that Ronnie couldn't have done this by himself. I'm starting to lean toward the fact that it would be hard, but I wasn't there. Okay. So the thing with Dawn gave me pause because of a few of the things that are evidence, and I don't know what else they showed in the book, but the nightgown with the unburnt gunpowder on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then her being under the covers, she was shot through the covers. So where's the gunpowder? How's that? So that's something to consider. We're not saying it's a be all and end all. Rick seems to, Mr. Osuna seems to stand by it. Ryan stands by it. And I'm going to pull up the link for Shattered Hopes. It's a 3-part.
There was some other stuff that came up
Yeah.
with the medical examiner's findings that would corroborate Butch's version of the story.
Of that version.
Yeah. And
But see,
even
that's
the
not even
prosecutor
Butch's version, Donnie. It's not Butch's version. Butch has 500 versions.
Well, I'm
of this
talking
night.
about this version in the book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's, and again, I'm watching him say, I never saw Butch with Rick Osuna. I've seen Butch with Ryan Kasabach. And this guy will tell you, I mean, he hired people to go digging for back in the water for the other weapon, which they did find what was left of a gun, a 38. He's done a lot of different things, but then I've heard him called an outright liar by people who should know too. So again, back and forth. You guys are going to have to take all the information to decide what you want. But no matter how you look at it, 6 people died that night, and one person went to jail. And there was one in the kitchen with Rocco DeFeo. Mike Brigante was leaning over to talk something and tell something, to somebody. And Rocco turned around and looked at me and told him, "Shut up. That's family business." Everything was kept family business. And let me tell you something, Mike Brigante shut up. So you saw who had the muscle there when it came down to, because Rocco was, they were all very deep, and I don't know, I never heard anything of anybody from that going and doing any other killings. It seemed like right then everybody was satisfied with how it was. Brigante told Butch to shut up about his sister. He didn't want to hear no more about it. That was it. You did this and that was it. And then you got all of the different lawyers and, the public defenders and stuff coming in, throwing in their 2 cents, coming and going fast. He eventually winds up with an attorney named Weber, who will absolutely show up in and out of this story again for 50 years. He marks prominent with the Lutzes and other things. You'll hear about that coming up. But this version, I just want to make it completely clear. It's not the only version you're going to hear. And Butch is basically the version of what happened was Butch got crazy. He knew they were going to kill him, and he went up and wiped out everybody. In Butch's own words on the stand, he said something that shocked the entire courtroom and for generations to come. He said that once I started, I just couldn't stop. And then he just smiled. But Butch is known for saying things that you want to hear. He likes the shock stuff. But again, was it just him being honest, and that's what he did? I don't know, Donnie. Do you? What do you think?
Well, that stuff, which we'll get to later, I mean, he had a reason. Oh, hey, old religious dystopia, Michael. Hey,
Hey, welcome in.
He called into Sean's show one day, and I was like, oh, I like this guy, so I started following his channel.
Welcome. We're we're taking Amityville over the coals.
Well, yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but when he was saying all that stuff, I mean, he had a good reason to lie. Let's just say.
Yeah. There's a lot, to this. It's not an easy cut thing, but like I said, throughout the whole thing, I wanted to remember tonight what it's really about. I've got two more short ones, Donnie, and I know there's so many different ways we could go through here, but I wanted you to hold up the book one more time because, I just saw a video that was done like a month ago where the guy said this guy's a crook. Because he looked at a couple documents and he said, here's the thing about this.
The Defeos died.
This
was Cisco's recommendation to me, by the way. She was the one that sent me the link and was like, order this. And I was like, okay. And
then I check this out and see what you think. Another pair of eyes. I mean, it's, there's a lot to this. And, I don't know whether, to believe him or disbelieve him. I don't have any skin in the game here when it comes to that. The same thing with, and I will look up that link, with Ryan. They went to great expense. I mean, it's, they've got actors acting through all of this. They've got, police, in interviews. They've got all kind of just everything you can imagine a documentary could be, except it does something funny. He dropped it in YouTube. Everything looks like it was dropped 10 years ago, and then it stopped cold. And then it started again about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means. I know there's been a lot of legal stuff back and forth. There's a lot of the people that are involved with this are gone now. I mean, the Lutzes are gone. George and Kathy are gone. The children, the two boys have been somewhat active on the scene of interviews and things like that. Laura Didido has absolutely done interviews, some of the best I've ever heard out there, by the way. Like I said, stays to the facts. It's very careful about this is my opinion, and so has Joel. And then there seems to be everybody else comes out of the woodwork and a book. I'm not even sure how I feel about Hans Holzer on this. We're going to watch some interviews, like I said, and we're going to come to your own conclusion. There's the lies about the Native Americans thrown in here. I just about got up and walked out of the second version of Amityville because they did all that with the Native Americans at the end and everything. And it was just like, that's just so gross. These are my people. This is Lenape. This is the Manasquan, and there's the legend and lore of that's where they were kept, the crazy ones, and those that were possessed by demons. I can't say that's true or not true. You've got people that say that Hans Holzer is full of crap because there was no Indian burial ground. Well, then you go to the Historical Society and they say there is.
This book was not kind to Hans Holzer.
No, and see, tore him up. So what we're doing is offering you a little bit of everybody, and you kind of decide. But what's not disputed is 6 people died that night. 6 people died that night. It was horrible for everybody that walked in there. Say what you want about Suffolk County, and we'll talk about that tomorrow night too. But these were real people. These are human beings. And this was a hard, volatile house, where, you look at that. And I've always said, you're driving down the street, you see all these great, big, beautiful houses. Well, you don't know the pain behind every door. You don't know what's going on in people's families. You don't, these kids had friends, Mark was on the football team and his friend loved him. He said he was great. He was like a little star athlete, He was probably doing it to get his father's approval or having just something that didn't have anything to do with that family, maybe. Who knows? We could psychological back and forth all this time. But if he had to move that guy out of the hallway, if there's evidence in the hallway that the father got shot there too, he couldn't have moved that body by himself. And a lot of these other people that were involved, the last you heard of Bobby Kelso was just, was that in the book where Geraldine saw him, like they walked by and he acted like he never knew her?
Yeah, that was like way after everything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these people just disappeared.
Yeah.
You see? And to be that involved with for the Mafia to be this close, and the Mafia is okay with everything that happened here too? You know what I mean? Like I said, there was no other stuff that was done. It's a lot of weird questions and stuff, Donnie.
So
Go
real
ahead.
quick to sum up this version of what happened. Butch, Dawn shot her father.
Mm-hmm.
Butch killed the father. Butch shot the mother. Bobby finally ended the mother. Dawn killed the kids, and Butch killed Dawn. But the initial reason for them was because of self-preservation, because they believed that Ron Sr. was going to kill him. So the thinking was, well, we got to get him before he gets us. And because the mother is on his side, we can't just kill the father, because the mother will eventually go to Michael Brigante, her father, and exact revenge or whatever will happen. But that is the summation of Butch's account of what happened that night.
Everybody, send Lindsay some protection. There might be some kind of a storm. Were we talking maybe tornadoes? Thunderstorm? You're going to be fine, sweetie. You're surrounded with love. Just do your normal precautions, and we love you. We love you. I don't know. Just maybe a bad storm. I just caught it and wanted to make sure that we sent her some, you know what I mean? All right. So, and Be Kind said, this is a terrible, sad story. It truly is. The point we're bringing it up, and it's not really to drudge everything. And I thought it was interesting, and this new, kind of a new take. It's not really new. It's, like I said, it started about 10 years ago. When was that book written there, Donnie?
This was, I believe, let's find out. It's fairly recent, actually. 2003. 2003.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put this in the chat now. Within this thing, the Shattered Hopes I'm telling you about, again, it's almost like a companion. I think when Rick Osana, in his own words, said that he broke away from this other documentary, that may have been when he was absorbed up into this Ryan Katzenbach. Thank you. Unless I see it in front of me, I can't do it. But got absorbed into that, and it's all portrayed very well in this little series. So here's the link. It's all free on YouTube if you care to look at it. And see what you think. There you go, right there. Just put it in the chat. So you don't have to get books and everything else. And you're going to see interviews in there, and you're going to have to discern what you guys think, as far as this. But we did want to bring this part to you because we had heard rumors, this and that Mafia. Well, yeah. That doesn't mean that they did it. That doesn't mean that they had anything to do with it. They probably had stuff going on at the Buick dealer or whatever was going on there. And they're going to take the light. They're not going to want the light shown over there. So whatever happened, I'm sure it was handled, lickety split and sent the old cleaners in there, whatever. I don't think it's a tornado warning. Yep. They get them in Canada. We learn something new every time we get it.
I should have known that. I was born in Canada too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. What part?
Toronto.
There you go.
And I
Who
didn't
knew?
even know that.
Right? We're learning all kinds of things, huh? I was born in Point Pleasant, right here in the beautiful downtown New Jersey. So anyhow, that's where we are with that. So if you guys had ever heard anything about Dawn being involved, or you've heard scuttlebutt about, I believe again, Hans Holzer brought that up. I could be wrong. Then there was some movies that had that in it. Again, from the first movie back, total garbage. The only thing I think that was real in the first movie is that there was a house at 112 Ocean Avenue, and some stuff may have gone down there. That's where I'm at right now with the whole thing. We're working our way up to it. But the most important thing to remember is two things I take away from this part tonight. The gathering at the night, the police, the things that went down in the kitchen, the neighbors around that knew the Defeos and listening to their conversations and what type of people they were. And we've pretty much covered that. Now, at this point, I'm just trying to understand how for 50 years we could exploit these kids and this family. And I don't want to do that. So I made this little bit here to finish up, just so we can remember, because as we move forward, it's almost like when people are talking, whether it's George Lutz or Kathy or anybody that says it's all garbage or it's all hooey, or Lorraine Warren sitting there staring into the camera going, this is the closest to hell I ever want to get, you know, and just, you know, that's what she said at the thing, you know, from the priest getting slapped and, you know, get out. There's two words that this case made famous in the world of horror, because now everybody gets EVPs. Get out, get out, get out. It all stemmed from this. But I got a little thing for you here. Throughout this, I said I had anchors, and I have a couple of things that I really trust that don't lie and go on instinct. And what do you think that is? Dogs. If an animal is backing something up, you know what I mean? And within this, I was telling Donnie, I thought it was kind of funny that within this whole thing, the whole 4-block night, at the end of each one, it's a dog that convinces me of something, you know? And I want to introduce you to that dog. Can we go and play this one now, Donnie? Is that cool? And I think this is the one it's in, so I wanted to tell you this is pretty cool.
There were no shell casings left behind. And it seemed that nobody was awake or heard, which is, again, a big part of the mystery. Why did
One teenager in the neighborhood, he was awakened by the sound of the DeFeo's Old English sheepdog, Shaggy, barking at about 3:15 in the morning. But why had nobody heard any shots?
To not hear a gun go off 6 times of that caliber when you were that close to this house is not believable at all. I do not understand how that happened.
Now, to me, that brings it all home. You know, whatever you want to say about who did what or what was happening in that house or what happened afterwards, we got to remember that what really did happen was those people lost their lives. Those kids were shot in their own beds. Now, I brought that video up for two things. One, Joel Martin, I said that it could possibly have been the first one to say 315, which has now become the time, the horrific time in so many stories, 315, 315, 315. And he said it because the ME said somewhere between 3 and 3:30. However, the dog was heard barking at 3:15 by the teenager. So does that reiterate something for you paranormally? I don't know. Does it for me? I don't know. The fact that nobody heard those shots, that one sticks with me. Because of the things I know in the paranormal, these things are possible. Hans actually described it very well, and I'll have that interview for you tomorrow night. But we all know in paranormal, if there is something that big, it's almost like a chamber where the noise doesn't come out. It doesn't make any sense. The toxicology reports, can you back me on this, Donnie? Clean. Which is
clean.
also suspicious to me, because wouldn't Dawn have had a shitload of drugs in her? I mean, think about it. I don't understand that.
She should
I don't
have. She was on
understand
all
that.
sorts of drugs that night.
Right. So how did she come up clean? So it makes me wonder here. So if that's off and your information is off and the facts are off, you know, then maybe there was some toxicology. I don't know. However, nobody's ever been able to explain how nobody heard those shots. And the way they echoed down the street, you could have heard that. It's a 35 Marlin. There was no silencer used. There was no bottle. I've seen comments and people calling into shows. So he could have took a bottle, 2-liter bottle. Stop it. It's a 35 Marlin.
That's a cowboy gun.
The stuff that I see throwing, you know, little things like you're going to call the whole thing a hoax because the window didn't blow out and the door didn't blow off. That was Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, now, like I said, we're going to be very careful in saying this person's a liar. This one made this up. This one. I'm just going to tell you, I ain't buying it. So there's something going on there. Now, did this house have some energy there? I don't know. I really love Ethel Myers. I grew up listening to Ethel Myers, a very deep trance medium, and watching how Hans holds himself and conducted himself in investigations. I've listened to Alexandra Holzer talk about her father and what it was like during that case. I've heard her say that he was insulted by it. He wasn't buying it. He came up with a whole nother thing. I can't speak on that. It's all out there for you to discern. I'm saying I think something went on in that house. I just don't know what yet. So that's where I am, Donnie. What about you?
And don't forget about the whole Ron Sr. thinking he was a psychic because he was being duped by that crooked priest. I think there might be a little link there with the paranormal as well. Maybe something, you know? That's
well, I can tell you this. Here's my statement, and this is my opinion. This is my opinion. At this point in time, night 1, Amityville, I would be absolutely fucking shocked if there wasn't some paranormal or supernatural situation going on in that house full of abuse. Anytime you have children being abused, it's a magnet for negative entities to come in and eat, eat at the buffet. We've said this since the beginning. Can I prove it? Do I think anybody in there was possessed? I hear possessive equalities coming out of these people, but I can't say. I don't know how they were back at the apartment. I didn't get anybody to dig on me to tell me that, but I've heard that he was beating the hell out of the kids when Butch was, under 2 years old. So did it escalate the situation? I don't know. There was a house that used to be there that was moved. Lots of rumor about that. I got pictures for you tomorrow night of the house. Some people say it was moved because they had issues, and other people just said they wanted a bigger house. So you're going to get lots of that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But to me, I would be shocked that there wasn't something going on there. And I'll tell you something else that shocks me to this day. Nobody's even claiming that the Defeos are haunting in that house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The first time I heard a dark figure walking down the hall or walking down the stairs, because we've all heard that one, why does it have to be a demon? Why couldn't it have been the ghost of Ron Sr.? He was a demon in life. I'm just saying, it's possible. You see what I'm saying? A dark figure, nothing but negativity. Like I said, I don't know, but we're going to investigate it together. We've got another whole bunch of stuff coming through tomorrow night. What are we giving them tomorrow night, Donnie? We're doing the police corruption, a little bit more about the investigation, right?
The police and their involvement, the investigation, the trial, and yeah. Yeah,
and a little bit of Hans Holzler. We're going to do that because
some of the evidence that was collected,
right? And some of the legends, I think, because I really wanted to get Steve and Sandy's, input on the legends and a couple of the other things that went on there, especially Ketchum. If you all ever heard of Ketchum, in the book, Sebastian, here's one to look up. In the book, they talk about the Native American side of this and Ketchum and some other stuff. Check in that when you get the book and see if the hardback matches up with the paperback in that chapter where they start talking about that part. Jay Anson is talking about that there, because I've got a little bit on that tomorrow night, and we'll see what comes up. I mean, whenever you get the book, that's something to look into. So how's the storm going, Lindsay? We're doing good, baby, so far? Yeah? Okay. Well, this might be a good time to pull up that free YouTube thing. It's 6 hours plus a 2-hour interview with Butch DeFeo. If you guys are so inclined to watch that for free, it's up to you. We're pretty much covering it here, but it's good to see it all mapped out and get your own ideas going on there. But that dog Shaggy, he's going to come up through this a couple of times. That dog, I can tell you this. Butch DeFeo hated that dog. The family loved him. Ron loved him. And he was quoted saying, if you harm that dog, whatever happens to that dog is going to happen to you. If he goes in the creek, you go in the creek. If he breaks a leg, you break a leg. So
Ron Sr. did love that dog.
Yeah, he loved that dog. And that dog was heard barking by a teenager in the neighborhood at 3:15. Hey, Sandy, how you doing, honey? And Sandy will be with us tomorrow night. I'm so glad you guys are coming in. We're doing all the heavy lifting, Sandy. All you guys got to do is come in and listen and give your opinion and throw out any information. It was Ketchum, Vixen Doe. Yeah, Ketchum. And Ketchum's really were prominent in that area in the 1700s and back and all through. So we'll hit on that tomorrow night, because I know Sandy loves that stuff, and I know Steve loves the lore and some of the other things we're going to bring up tomorrow night too. And tomorrow night we start a little bit about the trial and some of the players there, like the attorney Weber, and why they kept fluctuating in what they were going for there. At first they started, you can listen to the judge, but they started with Dawn and the story that Donnie just told you, and then it just like scratch it. Devil made me do it. So this really was the landmark case for the Devil Made Me Do It defense. And so there you go. All right, Donnie, we got this last little one. This is an introduction to you guys, and then we're about out of here. We're sorry we kept you so long, but hey, Toby!
Yeah, he just wanted attention.
Hey, sweetie. Oh, gosh, he's getting big. So this is a couple of my anchors, just to introduce you to some of these characters you're going to see throughout this case. I thought that they were worth mentioning because, like I said, just because I recommend somebody, or I go, I like this guy, he's got integrity, doesn't mean I agree with everything they say. It just means that they've held their own, and they're showing integrity through this. And let me say, that's like one of the nicest things I can say about anybody involved in this whole thing. If you can hold your integrity through this case, that's saying something. So let's take a look here and see what we got. Great job, Donnie.
Thank you.
Absolutely great.
You too.
got a telephone call, and the telephone call said, Joel Martin? I said, yes. Well, can you run right over to 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville? You're our closest reporter, and there's been a murder. I said, all right. Murders were not too common in 1974 on Long Island. It's a pretty suburban area. It's a nice town. Amityville is a beautiful colonial village. And when I said murder, I was corrected by the assignment desk at the United Press International, the wire service. No, there have been 6 murders. 6 murders? How am I going to go to 6 different murders? No, 6 murders in one house, a whole family. I said, oh my God.
Interesting because George met us outside the house in Amityville, and the film crew, we came in different cars, and Ed and Lorraine and I were in a car with actually it was Steve Bauman was the first reporter who went in that time. It was February 22nd, and George met us outside the house, and Steve tried to convince George to come in with him to appear on camera. And George said, no, I'm not going any further than the sidewalk.
Pretty straightforward murder case, or at least that's what I thought at the time.
It was just very eerie. It was very quiet and just a chilling, frozen moment, the kind that you'd never forget. It's a picture that you keep in your head always.
Well, there you go, guys.
There you go.
There's a few people that, if you're interested in looking into it, I put the Warrens in there. They were absolutely investigators. We're going to get into them. Hans Holzer, he was an investigator. But the journalists and the parapsychologists that I put up there, I tried to do like then and now pictures too, because Laura was 20. As I said, and I just think she handled herself so well through a lot of this, and went after that story, but so careful throughout to just the facts, ma'am. And she wasn't afraid to dig in. She's the one who set that whole investigation with the Warrens and everything else. And I'll be honest. I love Hans Holzer, but she actually said that she tried Hans Holzer first because she had worked with him and her crew on another case, and I don't know which one, but he was unavailable. Plus, he wanted to be paid, and she didn't have that amount of money, so she jumped to the next one, was Ed and Lorraine Warren. And in their defense, what she says, they said to her that they were very sweet, and she said all they asked for, she said, of course we'll come. And they wanted just gas and tolls. And she said that we can do. So that's the facts according to Laura. I was not there. That's what was said. Now, how much did Hans want? I don't know. It wasn't a large amount of money. Again, I don't know. We don't want to assume. Because people have a right to be paid for their time. It doesn't mean that he was a charlatan. But again, these times, just look at those pictures. This was the 70s. The Warrens were all over everything up and down the East Coast like crazy. I mean, everything was up there. The Conjuring and, Haunting in Connecticut, the Smurls, all of them. You know, say what you want about that, but we'll investigate and again, it's up to you. Just given the facts, what you think. So we're giving you all these little things. So if you hear them, you guys have learned to be so discerning and use common sense, right? We're at this point. It's like we don't have to. It's like talking about JFK. We're way past the point of Oswald did it alone. We're way past the point of the magic bullet. Come on. We're, way past the point of, certain things now. So this should not be an exception. We are way past the point of knowing that just because another family moved in a house doesn't mean that something didn't happen before. We're way past that. We know that can happen. We're way past the point of Hans going in there with Ethel Myers and anything else that didn't want to see him or for him to see them. They could have hit off. They could have gone somewhere else. These things there's little rules, but there's not anything concrete that you could say this could never happen. There's people, he could have never been possessed. Oh, Lindsay, thank you so much, honey.
Real nice of you.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much for that super chat. Thank you. That goes toward the StreamYard, and we appreciate you so much. Just knowing you guys are enjoying it it means the world. And trying to help you guys discern, because we hear little things and go, I always heard that it was this. I always heard it was that. Well, now you don't have to say that. This is where we're at 50 years later. And then we're going to figure it out together. And if we come at the end where we're professional fence sitters, because we just can't trust anybody on this, at least we can say this family was taken out and it should have never happened. The man went to jail at 22, 23 years old. He died in prison in 2021. I think he was married twice while he was in there. Maybe. Was it twice?
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. And he changed his story so many times. It's, sideways and upside down. It's hard to say. But we're left with these, and that family lost their life. And how anybody would want to live in that house is beyond me. But we will start to tell a story that people don't seem to be deterred from this place, and people are still standing in the streets to this day. Donnie, I don't know what it is about this case.
It's the most famous haunted house there is. It's the most famous one. It is the one.
Yeah, and it's still the most famous haunted house. They keep, like I said in the beginning, ghost story, like this on the ghost story.
Yeah,
definitely a paranormal pariah. For sure. And we're going to look into it.
It's like the Kanye West of haunted houses.
What?
That's how I see it.
Okay. Why not?
Yeah.
Everything else has been said. So there's that homework tomorrow night. It's just easy breezy. We're going to have fun. God bless Sandy for taking the time to come in here with Steve and Donnie again tomorrow night. Donnie?
Yep,
you in?
I'll be
you
here.
in like Flynn?
Yeah,
and Donnie's got all his research and stuff. Fantastic job, Donnie, doing this. And again, you're kind of sitting with me right now. We're just kind of like, man, I'm just really grateful I didn't live in that damn house, And I'm really glad I didn't try to live next door to it, because can you imagine the type of people that live there? They just don't want any. They just want to golf and boat and to barbecue and be left alone. Thank you so much, Sasha Bell, for the... Okay, since she mentioned the T Public, let's watch this real quick on the way out. Here we go.
Okay.
Ah! If anybody hasn't gotten their T-shirt or a mug...
I'm going to get my T-shirt and mug.
Yep, the new Zombie Steve is in there. We got Donny Cho's Alien. We've got stickers and pillows. A crispy pillow would have been great tonight, because you could have been squeezing the little ghost till his eyes popped out, thinking about some of this stuff. Because, again, to me, the Lutzes and what they went through, that was one horror. Tonight we handled the real horror, the real deal. Most horrific thing, that happened to these people. So our hearts go out to them. May they rest in peace. And for the love of God, people, stop making movies and exploiting these people. It's just horrible. It's just horrible to me. And then, like we said, people see it and think that's the truth, when the truth is like it said in that one thing, it's stranger than any fiction can be imagined, you know. Yeah. Yeah, they did fast. Tom's River, it's a couple miles from where I'm sitting right now. Crispy in his little chef hat, because why? Our mods, they haven't had to bake some shut the fuck up cakes in a while, have they?
No.
I think these mods are they've just got this wall up and everybody's scared of them. They're not going to come in here and try any garbage. Well, there you go, TeePublic. I don't know if there's a sale this week. Check. If not, wait, because it's like every 2 weeks, you know? And I love, yep, shut the fuck up cakes. Is that funny? Nightmare. It's funny. All right. Well, we thank you so much, Donnie. Impeccable research as per usual. The book is Rick Osana, The Night the DeFeos Died. The free documentary by Rick Cumberbund is God bless him. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name, dude. You got to get an easier name. But
let's call him Kevin Bacon from now on.
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't bring Kevin into this. And then that's free. It's like I said, it's all there on his, YouTube list. There's 3 parts and then a 2-hour with Butch DeFeo. And if you've never heard Butch speak, I highly recommend just sticking your head in there for a minute. And it's not pretty, but at least you'll get the idea that what abuse can do to a person all their life, and that's definitely a reason to stop the abuse. And if you've got somebody in your family that's suffering from it, please get help. There is help out there. Nobody has to suffer through this garbage alone. We know it's still going on. And a lot of times the kids are caught in the middle because, like Blue said, the wife gets, they get that almost that Stockholm syndrome kind of thing where, they just, it's horrible. So that's the real travesty here. That's the real horror. And tomorrow we'll start picking at the rest. Donnie, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Chat, everybody. Stay safe. Make good choices. And thank you for sitting through all of this and taking an open mind and looking into another part of this case. And tomorrow night, if you feel like digging, we're going to do a little digging on the Native Americans that were in this area and a little of the lore, like I said. So, if you want to add to that and you guys got something else that pops up, bring it on. We're going to go through all of it, right? So good night. We love you all. Thanks to everybody here. Sandy, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night and telling us about all the wonderful things that you and Steve and Bill and everybody's doing over on the great channel. And I love you all and stay safe till tomorrow. All right, we're out, baby.
All right, bye.
Good night, everybody.